Chapter 1076. Of course, it was reasonable for the 12 stars to think this way. After all, this was common knowledge to ordinary players. But was Wang Yu that kind of person that followed common sense? The answer was obviously no. Seeing Tiger charging over with his shield raised, Wang Yu casually raised his hand and used Cloud Capture Fist. With the buff from Ultimacy of the Subduing Dragon, Cloud Capture Fist transformed into a huge dragon claw that flew toward Tiger. Ultimacy of the Subduing Dragon. Twin Dragon fetched the Ultimacy of the Subduing Dragon's Cloud Capture Fist had a higher priority than ordinary skills. Ordinary Cloud Capture Fist had a range of 300 meters, which could only move a tank a short distance away. However, Twin Dragon Fetch Fist directly dragged Tiger, who was 500 meters away, to his side. Without waiting for the tiger to regain its senses, Wang Yu slapped the top of the tiger's skull. As the name of the skill, Ultimacy of the Subduing Dragon, never-ending clouds lit up, Tiger was smacked into a white light by Wang Yu's palm. F***CK. At this moment, Mouse, Fifth Dragon, and the others had already run close to Wang Yu and were about to stab Wang Yu with their black blades. At this moment, when they saw that Wang Yu's skill was still as powerful as before, they could not help but be stunned and immediately turned to run. Huh! Wang Yu furrowed his brows and shouted, stomping his foot on the ground with thunderstomp. Ultimacy of the Subduing Dragon. Frost Tread. A circle of lightning spread out with Wang Yu as the center. Mouse, Fifth Dragon, and the others did not even have the time to scream and were instantly killed. From the moment Wang Yu attacked to the moment Mouse, Fifth Dragon, and the others were killed, only a few seconds had passed. Seeing that nearly half of the 12 stars had been destroyed by Wang Yu, Whole of Wind Cloud was completely anxious and shouted hysterically, "Damn it, this bastard killed so many people, but the guards are not coming to arrest him? Why?" Reality proved that when people were anxious, they would try any doctor they could find. Seeing that so many of his subordinates had been killed by Wang Yu, Whole of Wind Cloud was also disappointed. They had actually placed their hopes on the guards. From this, it could be seen that in Wind Cloud World's eyes, the only person who could deal with Wang Yu was the guards. However, it was better to try anything than to have no treatment at all. As a reincarnated expert, Heavenly Wind Cloud's luck was off the charts. His yawn was merely to vent the unwillingness in his heart. However, at this moment, a series of footsteps could be heard. A group of guards stepped on the mercenaries and arrived in front of Heavenly Wind Cloud. Quacha. All the guards saluted Windy World in unison. One of the guards asked respectfully, "City Lord, what can we do for you?" The appearance of the guards stunned the Heavenly Wind Cloud for a moment before he reacted. It turned out that as the City Lord, he had the authority to order the guards. On the airship, Wang Yu had ordered the guards to throw the Heavenly Wind Cloud off the airship. 2 million was not spent in vain. The Whole of Wind Cloud was so excited that tears streamed down his cheeks. After throwing so much money, he finally saw the report. Immediately after, Windy World pointed at Wang Yu and said, "This brat has offended his superiors. Kill him." Kucha. The guard saluted Heavenly Wind Cloud again and said, "We are willing to serve you." After saying that, a group of guards got into formation. They raised their spears and charged at Wang Yu. The Freedom Cities had more guards than the other main cities. The mercenaries from the Freedom Cities naturally knew how terrifying the guards were. When these bastards went berserk, they would not recognize anyone. Seeing the guards coming out to clean up the mess, the players quickly retreated, afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. When Deathly Yu saw that Heavenly Wind Cloud was able to command the guards, he could not help but be shocked. Wang Yu knew how powerful the guards were. The reason why Wang Yu asked Xuanzhen's men to hide in the tavern was because Wang Yu knew that once the PK value of Xuanzhen's men reached a certain value, the guards would be attracted. It was true that Xuanzhen's men were strong, but that was only in comparison to the players. In front of the guards, everything else was as fleeting as clouds. Wang Yu had equipment with hidden attributes, so he could guarantee that he would not be targeted by the system. However, who would have thought that Heavenly Wind Cloud would call the guards over? These guards were brainless NPCs. They did not recognize Wang Yu. the former castellan. Seeing that the guards were about to reach him, Wang Yu gritted his teeth and charged forward instead of retreating. Just as the guards were about to stab Wang Yu to death, Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared behind the guards. Cunning villain! When the guards saw Wang Yu dodge, they quickly turned around and swept the spears in their hands horizontally. Poor Wang Yu. Yesterday, he was the respected castellan, but now he had become a cunning villain. Before the guard's spears could reach his back, Wang Yu landed on the ground and rolled twice. He pressed his hands against the ground and pushed off with his hind legs. He dashed into the crowd of mercenaries and stepped on their heads as he ran in another direction. F***CK, your grandfather. When the mercenaries saw Wang Yu rushing over, they were scared out of their wits and tried to escape. However, with almost 1,000 players gathered in one place, even the widest street would be crowded. Under such a crowded situation, these people did not have the ability to step on people like Wang Yu, so naturally, they could not run even if they wanted to. When Wang Yu killed people, he had to consider the cooldown of his skills and the positioning of his body movements. The guards were all cheats, so they did not have to worry about these things. A row of guards rushed over with their spears horizontally like a bulldozer. Without hesitation, they activated their mass destruction skill, Whirlwind Slash. As NPCs who could kill instantly, the guards cut through the area like they were mowing grass. The white light of death rose up everywhere they went. After a wave of Whirlwind Slash, more than half of the 1,000 mercenaries died. Heavenly Windcloud not only saw a Grandmaster of Combat who could kill dozens of people in one hit, but also a warrior who could kill hundreds of people in one hit. At the same time, he understood what it meant to be slaughtered. Of course, it would be better if the target of the slaughter was not his subordinates. The mercenaries who were lucky enough to survive were now on the verge of collapse. There was a saying that went, "Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, but be afraid of a stupid teammate." Wang Yu stood there for a long time, but he had only killed 100 people. On the other hand, Heavenly Windcloud only needed to call for a group of guards to break up their formation. At this moment, when they saw Wang Yu and the guards following him, they were scared out of their wits. Wang Yu was also a black-bellied fellow. He led these brainless guards and ran toward the place with more people. The followers of Heavenly Windcloud were like chives that were harvested by the guards one after another. Everyone was busy hiding from Wang Yu and the guards behind him. They no longer had the time to care about Qiuanjin and the others in the tavern. TSK, as expected of the old cow. Wherever he goes, chaos follows. Seeing that the enemies outside the tavern were in chaos, Wu Ji and the others sighed and swaggered out of the tavern. Chapter 1077. The mercenaries were currently being chased by Wang Yu and did not have the time to care about Qiuanjin's life. Although the world of Windcloud was shouting, no one attacked Wu Ji and the others. However, the guards were different. As the guards of Heavenly Dragon City, they could be said to unconditionally carry out the orders of the Castellan. As soon as the world of Windcloud gave the order, the guards immediately abandoned Wang Yu and turned to pounce on Qiuanjin's group. F***CK. This group of lackeys. Seeing the guards rushing towards him, Wu Ji was shocked. He pointed to the other side of the street and shouted, "Everyone, run over there!" Not everyone was as skilled as Wang Yu. There were hundreds of millions of players in the game, but the number of people who could escape from the pursuit of the guards could be counted on one hand. The Qiuanjin sect was a group of people who wouldn't wake up without benefits. Of course, they wouldn't risk their lives to challenge the limits. Hearing Wu Ji's order, everyone started to run. However, before they could run a few steps, the 12 constellations that were killed by Wang Yu had revived and led hundreds of mercenaries that were killed by the guards to block the other side of the street. At the same time, the perverted guards had also caught up to Qiuanjin. It was too late for everyone to turn around and return to the tavern. For the Castellan, justice will prevail. The guards who were not far from Qiuanjin's group shouted, and the spears in their hands pierced towards Qiuanjin's group with a sharp aura. Seeing that Qiuanjin's group was about to be wiped out, the air above the guards distorted. Accompanied by a white light, Wang Yu appeared in front of the guards. He put his hands together and created a qi wave, pushing it towards the guards' heads. Profound art of subduing dragon. Dragon soars in the sky. Boom! The chi wave left his hands and turned into several golden dragons, colliding with the guards' faces and making a loud noise. As expected of a guard, after taking Wang Yu's skill head-on, his figure only swayed slightly. After a slight pause, he immediately brandished the weapon in his hand and attacked again. F***. Seeing this, Wang Yu gritted his teeth, turned around in midair, and launched a flaming tornado kick. Profound art of subduing dragon. Divine dragon tail whip. Bang! 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 Wang Yu's right leg kicked the guards' faces with a fiery glow. Following the sound, all the guards were kicked back 3 steps by Wang Yu. Fuck! Upon seeing this scene, everyone present, whether it was Chuanjin's group or the world of Windcloud's group, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with shock. Of course, although they were both shocked at the same time, they weren't shocked about the same thing. The reason why Heavenly Windcloud and the others were shocked was because they knew how strong the guards were. These NPCs were the representatives of the invincible style in the game, and they could be said to be invincible. Up until now, no one had ever been able to shake the position of the guards. However, the Grandmaster combat in front of them was able to force the guards to retreat 3 steps with a single kick. This was simply unheard of. Damn it, is this a player or a boss? As for Chuanjin, they were, of course, shocked at the strength of the guards. The people of Chuanjin could not imagine how strong Wang Yu's skills were. However, no one knew better than them about Wang Yu's skills, equipment, and attributes. After awakening, Wang Yu was equipped with a full set of powerful equipment. His attributes were naturally high, and he had the insane dragon subduing palm buff. 2 consecutive attacks landed on the guards' faces, but the guards only took a few steps back. The health bar above their heads did not move at all. He was a walking cheat. After all, the guards were invincible existences. In just a short moment, they had already stabilized themselves. Expressionlessly, they swung their spears and repositioned themselves. Wang Yu turned around and said to the people of Chuanjin, "Don't just stand there. Run." Trying to run? Let's see where you can run to. At this time, Rat and the other 12 incarnations also brought the mercenaries to the opposite side of the Chuanjin sect, blocking the street tightly. In fact, Chuanjin's group were all awakened experts. With their current damage, it was not impossible for them to break through these players. The problem was time. Not to mention hundreds of mercenaries. Even if there were hundreds of monsters, it would still take some time. If there were no guard in the wild, it was not impossible for them to kill all of their opponents. However, the guard were right behind them, and they did not give Chuanjin any chance to attack. Now, that Chuanjin had PK points, he would have to run naked on the streets if he died. On the other hand, Heavenly Windcloud's group would only lose 10% of their experience and death compensation. Under such circumstances, they naturally tried their best to delay Chuanjin. Wuji laughed and asked, "Have you seen a flying person before?" When Rat heard this, he was at a loss. Just as he was about to say something, he heard a whoosh sound. The Chuanjin sex people all had wings on their backs. At the same time, Yin Lauer, who was standing at the front, raised a shield to protect the Chuanjin sex people. Everyone spread their wings and flew into the sky. Seeing Chuanjin's group flying, Rat was shocked and hurriedly ordered, F***. Don't let them escape. Shoot them down. Following Rat's order, the ranged professions immediately attacked Chuanjin's group. Clang, 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 clang. Countless magic arrows hit Yin Lauer's shield, making crisp sounds. Behind the shield, Chuanjin's group hid behind Yin Lauer's shield, safe and sound. Although the shield in Yin Lauer's hand was not invincible, it was not difficult for it to protect everyone and fly out of the mercenaries' shooting range. Fortunately, Wang Yu led the guards to break through the encirclement. Otherwise, Yin Lauer, who was only a shield warrior, would not be able to protect so many people. If they had taken off by force, they would have been shot to death by arrows before they could take off. Fortunately, these guards could not fly. After Chuanjin's group flew, The guards took a look and immediately shifted their hatred to Wang Yu, who dared to beat them up. Aya. Seeing that the guards had started to chase after him again, Wang Yu sighed and activated his qigong. He jumped in the air and stepped on one of the guards' face. After a few consecutive jumps, Wang Yu's figure rose rapidly. Xuanzhen's group was furious that the mercenaries' attacks could not reach them with Yin Lao Air's shield. Seeing that Wang Yu was about to fly, everyone threw magic arrows at Wang Yu. Wang Yu did not panic. He crossed his arms in front of him and used his Qi Wave shield. Profound meaning of subduing the dragon in the field. Immediately, the Qi Wave shield transformed into several blue dragons that surrounded Wang Yu and blocked the magic arrows. Wang Yu spread his wings and quickly flew up to catch up with Xuanzhen's group. Xuanzhen's group did not look back and quickly flew out of the sight of Heavenly Wind Cloud's group. Chapter 1078. Air. Seeing Wang Yu leave with the other members of the Quanzhen sect unscathed, the players below were all stunned. F***CK. Trying to escape? Everyone, follow me. The whole of Wind Cloud shouted angrily as he stabbed his weapon into the ground. A magic circle appeared on the ground, and a black dragon was summoned. It was a black dragon, but it had just hatched yesterday and was only level 1. It was not even as big as Teddy. The little black dragon was circling around the whole of Wind Cloud and spitting fire. The thumb-sized flames were not threatening, but they were very cute. Ugh! The appearance of the black dragon caused everyone to be speechless. A single slap from such a weak creature would be enough to kill it. No one thought that the whole of Wind Cloud would have the courage to sit on it. F***CK. Seeing his precious pet in such a state, Heavenly Wind Cloud's face turned purple. He had forgotten that he still had to level up. Boss, what do you mean by this? Fifth Dragon, who was beside the whole of Wind Cloud, asked insensibly. It's none of your business. The whole of Wind Cloud glared at Fifth Dragon. Fifth Dragon shrunk his neck and whispered, It's over. There's no bonus for this month. What? You still have a bonus? Tiger and the others looked at the whole of Wind Cloud in surprise. The whole of Wind Cloud glared at Fifth Dragon. Can you shut up? At this moment, Heavenly Wind Cloud's mood could be said to be in a foul mood. So many people had died, so much trouble, and they had even offended the apocalypse. Yet, they could only watch helplessly as the enemy flew away without leaving behind a single piece of equipment. Now, Xuanzhen, who had suffered once, was on guard. They would not fall for it a second time. It would be difficult to set up an ambush in the future. The whole of Wind Cloud scratched the wall in anger. Mouse, what should we do now? The whole of Wind Cloud turned to Mouse and asked. Sigh. Mouse sighed, forget it. They can fly. We can't catch up to them. It couldn't be helped. At this stage of the game, flying was a shameless skill for players who were still limited to walking on land. However, although flight was rare, it wasn't as if it didn't exist. There were so many players below that could fly. The problem was that flight was a cleric skill. With the cleric's combat power, it was better to pretend that they couldn't fly than to chase after those ferocious monsters in the sky. Damn it, Windy World said sullenly. We almost succeeded. I really can't accept this. Rat shook his head and didn't speak again. The whole of Wind Cloud was a noob, but Mouse wasn't. Mouse was well aware of the difference in the situation just now. There was no need to even mention the experts from a Quanzhen sect. Their strength was definitely not inferior to that of the 12 constellations. The strength Wang Yu displayed, in particular, far surpassed that of any player Rat had ever seen. Whether it was guarding the entrance by himself or kicking away the guards with a frightening kick, these were all feats that ordinary players wouldn't even dare dream of accomplishing. Just this fellow alone was already difficult enough for everyone to handle, let alone the others. Almost a decimal point, I guess. Of course, Windy World was the boss, so Mouse could only keep these words to himself. However, he still kindly reminded Feng Yu, Young Master Feng, it's best that you don't leave Sky Dragon City for a while. Why? Windy World asked in confusion. For safety's sake, Mouse said calmly. While Windy World was cursing, Xuanzhen's group had already flown out of Sky Dragon City. They couldn't go to the port anymore. If Windy World's group was lying in ambush, Wang Yu's dragon-subduing palm could not be activated again in a short period of time. They would definitely have to avoid the guards if they encountered them. The only thing they could do now was to go to the neighboring city and take a detour. Chuanjin's group was used to being hunted down, but it was the first time they almost ran around naked like today. No matter how good their mentality was, they couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. They pointed at Wuji's nose and looked down on him. Wuji, you useless piece of trash. You still dare to talk about selling gold coins? I almost died, you know. That's right. I've already told you that you'll have to pay for what you've done. Do you really think you're invincible? How about it? You were tricked, right? You almost dragged us down with you. If it wasn't for Uncle Nyo, originally everyone had just escaped from death, so a few words of disdain wouldn't hurt. Wuji, who was thick-skinned, had always been selectively deaf. To place one's pride's words made Wuji feel uncomfortable. One must know that Wuji had always considered himself to be a master strategist. At this moment, someone was pointing at his nose and saying that he was tricked. It was like pointing at Wang Yu's nose and saying that Wang Yu was beaten up. This was a taboo. To place one's pride's words, Wuji said with a cold face, "Young man, grow some brains. Who did you say tricked me?" The whole world of Windcloud. To place one's pride pouted. "Oomph." Wuji snorted coldly. "Did I tell you to come and sell your gold?" "Yes." To place one's pride nodded. "And have you sold your gold?" Wuji asked again. This, to place one's pride, and the others shut their mouths after hearing Wuji's words. Although they didn't trade directly, Chuanjin's gold was on the list at the consignment shop. The whole world of Windcloud didn't hire so many mercenaries for free. After the battle, the whole world of Windcloud spent another sum of money. Now, the gold that the Chuanjin mercenaries put on the list was almost sold out. It was a little dangerous just now, but no matter what, no one died, and their goal could be considered to have been achieved. Seeing that everyone was silent, Wuji curled his lips and said, "Ignorant children, I won't lower myself to your level. That's enough." Seeing that the atmosphere was a little awkward, the wretched Chun Xiang quickly came out to smooth things over. "Let's not talk about the past. Now we have to think about how to get back at them. It had always been the Quanjin sect who plotted against others. Now that they were being plotted against by others, this group of vengeful fellows naturally wouldn't be able to hold back their anger. In the end, Chun Xiang asked Wuji, "What do you think, Wuji?" Even if Wuji was set up, he still had to rely on him to come up with a plan. Wuji rolled his eyes at Chun Xiang and said, "Get back my ass. I a boss." Chun Xiang quickly said, "There's no overnight hatred between brothers. They haven't even grown their feathers yet. Are you going to lower yourself to his level? There's really no other way." Wuji waved his hand helplessly and said, "You saw the situation just now. The whole world of Windcloud is the city lord of Sky Dragon City. As long as he doesn't leave Sky Dragon City, we won't have a chance to make a move." Chapter 1080. Hiding in the city was not scary. What was scary was that the world of Windcloud was the city lord of Heavenly Dragon City. As the city lord, the world of Windcloud had the same authority as Wang Yu. He had the authority to mobilize all the city guards. There was no need to repeat how powerful the city guards were. If it was just 1 or 2 guards, it would be fine. They could still lure the tiger away from the mountain. However, there were at least hundreds of city guards. Even if the whole of Windcloud couldn't mobilize all of them at once, the Quanjin sect wouldn't be able to deal with 10 of them at once. After all, a super expert like Wang, you could only barely handle 1 of them. As for the others, therefore, the world of Windcloud could be said to be under the protection of the system. As long as the world of Windcloud did not take the initiative to leave the city, he was absolutely safe. On the other hand, the same was true for Wang Yu. As long as Yu Huicheng did not appear, he would be invincible. Of course, the difference was that Wang Yu would also be invincible if Yu Huicheng appeared. Damn it, that bastard got away with it. The Chuanjin members cursed angrily when they heard this. After playing the game for so many years, this was the first time that they were not able to take revenge after being tricked by someone else. It couldn't be helped. Everyone had witnessed the valiance of the guards just now. These shameless fellows had remained unmoved even under Wang Yu's insane attacks. With such a bug-like NPC protecting the whole of Windcloud, the guards were naturally invulnerable. How did the saying go? In the face of absolute power, all schemes and plots were useless. The difference in strength between everyone and the city guards was definitely not something that could be made up for with schemes. Wu Ji sneered. We won't let him get away with it. We robbed the world of Windcloud's equipment, and the old cow even cheated him of 1 million. This brat definitely cannot take this lying down. Just wait. He will come knocking on our doors sooner or later. If he dares to step out of Heavenly Dragon City, I will make him regret it for the rest of his life. Just as Wu Ji had expected, Windy World was not a magnanimous person. This brat had set up many traps and was originally confident that he could take revenge. In the end, after Wang Yu annihilated a large number of them, not even a hair of Chuanjin was left. How could Windy World let this matter rest? Therefore, when he heard that Mouse wanted him to stay in Heavenly Dragon City obediently, Heavenly Windcloud immediately became anxious. He pointed at Mouse's nose and scolded, Trash! What do I need you for? You can't help me vent my anger, and you want me to be a coward? In the face of the boss's scolding, Mouse looked helpless, but he had to explain, What can we do? I'm desperate too. It's not like you didn't see that Grandmaster of Combat. Moreover, the people from Chuanjin have already left. We can't possibly go to you Huichang for revenge, can we? Asking you to stay in Sky Dragon City is for your own good. You don't know the style of this group of people. They are very famous in the industry. Shut up. Windcloud World was enraged. Don't tell me it's useless. I'm not spending so much money to pay you guys to tell me stories. Mouse lowered his head, not knowing how to answer. Then, Heavenly Windcloud said, Don't you know a lot of professional players? Invite a few of them over. The price is negotiable. Boss, listen to me. When Mouse heard Heavenly Windcloud's words, his heart could not help but tremble. Meow. This young master's words were very reserved. It was obvious that he was doubting the standards of his group. What he meant was that he wanted to find more subordinates. In truth, although Heavenly Windcloud had an arrogant temper, his treatment was excellent. This was a serious study with the prince. On normal days, he would play like a normal player. His equipment and potions would be used by the boss, and he was free to allocate his time. Compared to the bitter professional players who trained the moment they opened their eyes and treated the game as their work, it was much better. Otherwise, someone as arrogant as 12 stars would not be willing to be someone's lackey. Seeing that Heavenly Windcloud had the intention to change his lackeys, Mouse hurriedly tried to persuade him. Our 12 stars is definitely the best in the game. Our professional team is also Before Mouse could finish his sentence, Heavenly Windcloud rudely interrupted. Can't even take down a Grandmaster of Combat. Rat's face reddened, and he said awkwardly, that Grandmaster of Combat is far beyond the top tier. Even if you invited a team from the professional league, they wouldn't be much stronger than us. Besides, they wouldn't come just like that. I don't care, Heavenly Windcloud said. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman. I'm going to kill these people in Chuanjin. You must find me an expert who can deal with them. Otherwise, I'll fire you. All right. Since Heavenly Windcloud had made it so clear, what else could Mouse say? He could only lower his head helplessly. If they found an expert, they might lose their jobs. If they didn't find an expert, they would lose their jobs on the spot. This was not a difficult choice. People had to lower their heads when they were under someone else's roof. For the sake of some money, even an expert had to bow and scrape. This was the reality. At least you know what's good for you. Seeing that Mouse agreed to find an expert of a higher level, Heavenly Windcloud nodded in satisfaction and said, I'll go to the consignment store to buy some pet experience potions. You guys think of a way. After saying that, Heavenly Windcloud left on his own, leaving behind the depressed 12 stars. Mother of Asterisk, this phone guy is too rude. Seeing that Heavenly Windcloud had left, one of the 12 stars with a bad temper started scolding. Hey, old dog, I didn't see you say that just now. Nonsense, didn't you say that just now? The guy who was called Old Dog curled his lips and asked Mouse, Boss, what do we do now? Do we really find a professional team for this prodigal? I don't have the face to do that. Professional teams were very busy. Their goal was to be the champion, not to fight. Moreover, who didn't have the face to do that? As a public figure, they naturally couldn't bully the weak. Therefore, even if their own guild's players were bullied, if it wasn't for the boss personally ordering them to work overtime, they wouldn't bother to come out and bully low-end players. They couldn't afford to lose face. 12 celestial signs and the others were also professional players, so they naturally understood the reasoning behind this. Although they knew quite a few experts, none of them felt that they had the face to invite these people out. Being directly rejected wasn't a good feeling. Invite my ass, Mouse said. Do you think that even if we invite professional experts, they will definitely be able to defeat that group of people just now? Everyone was speechless. That's right. Although the 12 stars had retired, in this new mode, their strength wasn't much weaker than before. Those professional experts wouldn't dare to say that they would have a 100% chance of winning against this group of veterans. At this time, if they were to face a ruthless character like Wang Yu, they probably wouldn't be much stronger than them. Chapter 1081. Then what do you think we should do? The one with the surname Feng is a man of his word. Seeing that their peaceful days were coming to an end, everyone became more and more depressed. Rat laughed and said, "Isn't it just looking for someone? What's so difficult about that? Let's just post on the forum later." Post on the forum? Are you kidding me? Seeing that Rat actually came up with such a bad idea, everyone could not help but shout. Everyone knew what kind of a crappy place the forum was. Most of the keyboard warriors were good at playing with the keys. With a keyboard in their hands, even Old Ma of the Longton group had to lick their shoes. If they were really dragged into the forum, they probably wouldn't even dare to show their faces, let alone deal with evil people like the Chuanjin sect. What's the use of finding this group of trash? Tiger and the others frowned. Rat said, "What do you know? Whether they have the ability or not needs to be compared. What's the use of finding trash?" As the #1 think tank of the 12 stars, Rat was a sinister character who could even scheme against Wuji. He naturally considered the problem more thoroughly than others. Listening to this grandson's words, he did not want to find an expert who could deal with Chuanjin. Thinking about it, people of the same trade were enemies. If he really found a group of experts to casually destroy Chuanjin, wouldn't the 12 stars be even more trash? In the end, the 12 stars would still lose their jobs. Instead of finding a strong competitor, it was better to find a group of trash. Although the 12 stars were somewhat unable to raise their heads in front of Chuanjin, this group of people were still professional experts. Compared to the keyboard warriors on the forum, they were obviously superior. At that time, the whole of Windcloud would understand who was the real trash. What was scary was comparing goods. Maybe the whole of Windcloud would have a brain cramp and increase the salary of the 12 stars. When everyone heard this, they suddenly came to a realization and gave a thumbs up in unison. TSK, TSK. As expected of the boss, you're brilliant. Of course, Rat smiled and said, "Everyone go offline and post." Then he said, "By the way, be sure to write clearly that the people we're dealing with this time are Chuanjin and that Iron Ox." You want to write that too? Everyone said in surprise. Chuanjin is also very famous now. If we write that we're going to deal with someone, who would dare to come? It's better if they don't dare to come. Rat narrowed his eyes and said, "Doesn't this prove our ability? At the very least, the 12 constellations could be used to scheme against Chuanjin. Although it failed in the end, it could only mean that man proposes and God disposes. However, the other party didn't even have the courage to fight. Wasn't it obvious who was stronger and who was weaker?" That makes sense. Everyone nodded and went offline. Mouse also quit the game. As always, the keyboard users on the forum were playing the role of all kinds of awesome characters and spamming on the forum. For example, he would post a screenshot of his stats to show off. "Everyone, look at my stats panel. Isn't it a little weak?" Then a group of people replied seriously, "It's okay. If we get some good equipment, we'll be able to reach the average level." Such posts abounded. Mouse bared his teeth. After casually looking at these bragging posts, he sent his own post in the same format as others. recruiting experts to go to Yu Huicheng to kill Chuanjin. Interested parties, please message me privately. Chuanjin wasn't a nameless person. Moreover, they had recently won the battle to defend the city. Now, whether it was on the forum or in the game, everyone knew about them. Therefore, as soon as Mouse's post was sent out, it immediately attracted the attention of the players on the forum. In less than 5 minutes, the number of hits exceeded 10,000. What kind of person was Chuanjin? He led a city of players and repelled the attack of hundreds of main cities. Now, someone actually said that they wanted to form a group to kill Chuanjin. Couldn't everyone sit down and boast about it? The most annoying thing for braggers was that someone was better at bragging than them. In just a short while, Mouse's post had hundreds of replies. As for the replies, Mouse was busy scrolling through other forums. Of course, he didn't have time to look at them. In fact, Mouse didn't need to look at them to know that the replies were definitely sarcastic. They were also stepping on other people's bragging. However, there was no one who actually messaged Mouse. This was to be expected. After all, these keyboard warriors were all cowards. How would they have the guts to do so? Although Mouse knew that no one would reply to him, he didn't go online. If he went online, Whole of Windcloud would definitely ask him about the experts. Mouse wasn't in the mood to listen to a noob's lecture. After posting a few forum posts, Mouse sat in front of the computer with his chin in his hand and pulled out Minesweeper to kill time. Just as Mouse reached the 8th stage of Minesweeper, he suddenly received a notification from the forum. You have a new message. Please check it. IO. Someone actually dared to come? Seeing the notification, Mouse was slightly stunned. His face was full of surprise. He quickly closed Minesweeper and opened the mailbox. At this time, a stranger named Crystal Jade sent a message. Where? What where? Mouse frowned as he replied. Soon, Crystal Jade sent another message. Didn't you say that you were going to kill Chuanjin? Where did we meet? Could it be that you're joking? No, I'm not joking. Mouse quickly replied. In Skydragon City. Skydragon City? That's a very remote place. Can I go directly to Yu Huicheng? Chapter 1082. Zishu? What a stupid name. I'm online now. You should come online too. I'll be right there. After receiving Rat's message, Crystal Clear Jade first ridiculed Rat's name, then left a message and closed the message. Looking at Glacial Jade's reply, Rat was dumbfounded. F*CK. I didn't even mock you for having a typo in your name. How dare you mock my name? Although Rat was depressed, he was still an expert. Naturally, he would not be so bored as to argue with a nobody. After closing the message, Rat sent a message to the rest of the 12 stars. I've found them. Hurry up and come online. No way so fast? The others were as surprised as Rat when they saw Rat's message. It was true that the people in Chuanjin wanted to beat them up, but they were just shouting. Without some skill, who would dare to provoke these bastards? Rat sneered. Who cares if they're fast or not? Since we've found them, it's not our problem whether they can do it or not. After saying that, Rat put on his gaming helmet and went online. Pure Ice Jade wasn't joking. As soon as the 12 constellations came online, Mouse received a friend request. What Mouse didn't expect was that this Pure Ice Jade was actually a female, and her class was a relatively unpopular fighter. If it was in the past, Rat would be like any other player and have a prejudice against the Grandmaster of Combat class. However, after seeing Wang Yu's dungeon, Rat started to become interested in this class. Without thinking, Rat accepted Glacial Jade's friend request. At the same time, Glacial Jade sent a message. Coordinates. There were only 2 words in the message, but the tone was domineering, scaring Rat into a daze. It was not that there were no female experts among professional players, but it was the first time Rat had seen such a domineering woman. XX Tavern. After asking for Whole of Windcloud's opinion, Rat sent the location to Glacial Jade. He then brought his companions to the agreed location. On the way, Rat instructed, later, when the boss asks you to test these people's strength, everyone have to go easy on them. The Whole Windcloud was not a fool. Since he had asked Rat and his group to find experts, they would definitely not be able to make do with just a few people. If the Pure Ice Jade heroine was really a famous expert, then it would be fine. But this little girl had never even heard of the famous Zishu. She was most likely a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers. At that time, if they really got killed in one move by their brother, wouldn't that be a slap to their faces? So they still had to go easy. Otherwise, if they found out that they had found a bunch of trash, everyone would be embarrassed. Everyone was just trying to make a living. Their goal was to make the whole of Windcloud happy and keep their jobs. Who were they putting in so much effort for? I know. I don't need you to tell me. The 12 constellations seemed to have done this a lot. Just as the mouse finished speaking, everyone impatiently replied. It seemed like they were very familiar with this kind of thing. When he arrived at the tavern, Windy World was already waiting for him at the entrance. A giant black dragon squatted beside Windy World. The dragon bared its fangs, scaring the other players in the tavern into hiding. Windy World seemed to like this. He raised a plate of fish above his head. The giant dragon lowered its head and swallowed the entire plate. Then it intimately stuck out its tongue and licked Windy World's face like a dog gnawing on a bone. Its behavior was rather arrogant. However, Windy World was even more arrogant. This was a shop owned by the system. A plate of fish cost 10 gold coins. How was it feeding fish? It was practically feeding money. Seeing Windy World's behavior, Rat and the others felt their hearts ache. This prodigal must have bought a lot of pet experience potions to feed this dragon. Just now, it was the size of Teddy Bear, but now it was almost 2 meters tall. Meow. It would be better to use this money to feed livestock as a bonus. Come, sit here. Seeing that Rat and the others had arrived at the tavern, Windy World invited everyone to sit down and excitedly boasted, "What do you think of my Blackie? I spent tens of thousands of gold coins to feed him to the same level as me." Good. Not bad. Rat and the others were speechless. This bastard, he actually used pet experience potions to feed this dragon to over level 40. What a wastrel. As the castellan of Sky Dragon City, Windy World had the protection of the guards. Even the Dragon Emperor would not dare to be arrogant in front of the guards, let alone this little black dragon. Raising this thing was purely unnecessary. It couldn't be helped. After all, the rich liked this novelty. It was just like how women liked diamonds. Even if they knew that they were useless and expensive, they still dared to say that they did not want to buy them. Of course, none of us had a girlfriend, so we have never encountered such a problem. I will not rub salt on the wound. Hee. Windy World chuckled and said in a good mood, "Oh, right. Where are the people I asked you to find?" Rat hurriedly said, "They're coming. They will be here in a moment." "Oh, are they all professional players?" Windy World asked. "No, but they're a group of very special experts," Rat said mysteriously. "Isn't it special? I found them on the forum. There are probably no more special players than this." Special. As a super rich second generation, Windy World liked to be unconventional and stand out from the crowd. When he heard that the people recruited this time were special, he immediately became interested and said excitedly, "Then I will have to observe them." Of course. Rat nodded with a smile and raised his eyebrows at the others. However, the others did not have the time to care about Rat. These fellows had already gathered beside Windy World and were discussing the black dragon with their arms crossed. This dragon scale, this luster, high-class goods are indeed different. Do you guys think this fellow is a male or female? Fifth Dragon looked down at the black dragon's crotch and said, "It should be a female. It doesn't even have a D*CK. Tisa, just nice. You two make a pair. I will be the matchmaker. You will become young Master Fang's son-in-law." Tiger laughed. "I'm so envious." Everyone sighed in unison. F***CK. Rat was furious. "Do you guys have any proper business? The boss is watching." Everyone was stunned and quickly looked at Windy World, who knew that Windy World would just sit there and pointed at Fifth Dragon, saying, "Your suggestion is not bad. Hey, old dragon, quickly call him father-in-law." F***CK. Rat collapsed. Bang. Just when the group was in a mess, the tavern's door was suddenly pushed open and a group of people walked in aggressively. Chapter 1083. When playing a game, the most important thing was the allocation of classes. Not to mention the fact that Grandmasters of Combat were still very weak, Even if the class was very strong, there were very few teams that would form a team with Grandmasters of Combat. For example, the strongest classes in the game were the Assassin and Warrior, but there was no team that only had these two classes. After all, no matter how strong a single class was, it would not be able to bring out the full effect of the combination of classes. Such a team of people dressed in Grandmaster of Combat attire was indeed very eye-catching. At this moment, a female player who was the leader of the Grandmaster of Combat team stood up and looked around before asking, "Who is Zishu?" Hearing the female player calling him, Mouse immediately stood up and said, I am Crystal Clear Jade." As the female player spoke, one of the Grandmaster Combat team behind her quickly wiped a bench and placed it behind her. Crystal Clear Jade expressionlessly sat opposite the whole of Windcloud's group. Witnessing this scene, the whole of Windcloud's group was instantly dumbfounded. Clear Ice Jade didn't even turn her head as she sat down on the bench. Everything was done in such a familiar and natural manner. It could be seen that this girl was already used to this kind of behavior. What was even more surprising was that the Grandmaster of Combat, who moved the bench, had a proud look on his face. One had to know that the whole of Windcloud was also a very difficult person to serve. However, no matter how difficult it was to serve this guy, he was still the boss and employee of the 12 constellations. He had never treated the 12 constellations as his subordinates. Crystal Clear Jade's behavior was obviously a little uncomfortable to look at. Clatter! The wine glass in the whole of Windcloud's hand fell on the table, and asked Mouse blankly, This is the expert you invited?" Mouse nodded blankly. He had never thought that he would invite an expert. This was obviously a Grandmaster. As expected of someone with character, the whole of Windcloud wiped his sweat. Seeing the whole of Windcloud's group making a fuss over nothing, Crystal Clear Jade coldly snorted and directly asked Mouse, "You are Zishu? Tell me, how do we cooperate?" Mouse turned back to look at the whole of Windcloud and said, "You have to ask our boss about the cooperation." Mouse was only an employee. With the boss around, naturally, he had no right to speak. "Oh, so your words don't count. Then why are you wasting your breath on me?" Pure Ice retorted disdainfully at Mouse before turning to face Heavenly Windcloud. F***CK. This arrogant little girl. The 12 constellations were also experts, and they also had to have their own pride. Seeing their boss being humiliated by a nameless little girl, the faces of everyone present were unsightly. All of them glared at Clear Ice and Jade with anger written all over their faces. The Pure Ice Jade seemed to be disdainful of talking to her subordinates. She raised her chin and asked the world of Windcloud, "Hey, tell me, how should we cooperate?" This was also the first time Windcloud World had met someone who was more arrogant than him. His imposing manner was a little lacking. He scratched the back of his head and asked, "What do you think?" "Very simple." The Pure Ice Jade said, "You guys pay, and we'll do the work. You decide how we turn our opponents into. The worse they are, the higher the price." What? As soon as the words of the Pure Ice and Jade heroine were spoken, everyone was stunned. Meow! This little girl's tone was too arrogant. The people from Chuanjin were all veteran experts. Compared to professional players, their weaknesses were extremely limited. As for that Iron Ox, he was even more abnormally strong. This was something that everyone had witnessed. However, when the Pure Ice Jade said this, her expression was very indifferent, as if she was not facing a group of experts, but a group of people who were about to die. This confidence was so strong that it made people feel that this group of people was sick. This, the others did not know, but Heavenly Windcloud was shocked by the Pure Ice Jade's domineering tone. He turned his head and asked Mouse, "Mouse, these are the people you found. Do you think they are trustworthy?" Mouse hesitated for a moment before saying, "Miss Ice, the cooperation is not urgent. Actually, our young Master Feng only wants to find some capable experts and not to compete with his opponents with words." Originally, Mouse thought that finding a few people would be enough, but after the Pure Ice Jade's words, Mouse's heart turned cold. This was King bragging. Mouse felt that he had lost face in front of Heavenly Windcloud. Seeing that the one talking to her was Mouse, The pure ice jade coldly snorted and said in disdain, "Little bastard, what do you mean? Little bastard." Hearing the pure ice jade's words, even if the 12 constellations were too lazy to bother with a woman, being ridiculed like this, everyone's anger rushed to their heads. Meow, this chick looks quite pretty, but why is her mouth so vicious? The hot-tempered fifth dragon directly interrupted and said, "What do you mean? It means that we will not cooperate with a group of bragging trash like you. Do you understand? If you understand, then scram." Oh, hearing fifth dragon's words, the pure ice jade did not get angry. Instead, her slender eyebrows twitched, as if she had just noticed fifth dragon's existence. She pretended to be surprised and said, "Where did you come from, you bastard?" It had to be said that pure ice jade was quite accomplished in the area of humiliating people. That arrogant tone of voice, that contemptuous look in her eyes, even a good-tempered person would have a belly full of fire after just 3 sentences. Not to mention Chunlong's explosive temper that wouldn't take the slightest loss. F***CK. Originally, Fifth Dragon was extremely dissatisfied with the pure Ice Jade's behavior. Now that he was provoked again, he could not hold back his anger. With a curse, he unsheathed his dagger and activated swift movement to attack. Seeing Fifth Dragon pouncing toward her, the pure Ice Jade smiled slightly. Her expression was still indifferent, without the slightest trace of panic. Just as Fifth Dragon's dagger was about to stab into the pure Ice Jade's body, a Grandmaster of Combat rushed out from behind the pure Ice Jade and stood in front of her. Without waiting for Fifth Dragon to react, the Grandmaster of Combat's left hand casually reached forward and grabbed Fifth Dragon's wrist that was stabbing towards him. Then, with a forceful twist, Fifth Dragon involuntarily turned around. At the same time, the Grandmaster of Combat used his right arm to clamp Fifth Dragon's neck under his armpit, and with a slight push, the sound of his neck breaking was heard, and Fifth Dragon turned into a flash of white light on the spot. After killing Fifth Dragon, the Grandmaster of Combat acted as if he had done something insignificant. He clapped his hands and calmly returned to Pure Ice's back. At this time, Tiger laughed and teased Fifth Dragon in the party channel, saying, "Motherf asterisk cur, old dragon, your acting skills are not bad. You can go act. Why are you a professional gamer?" When Fifth Dragon received the message, he angrily said, "Act your ass. Go and try." "What? Don't tell me you were really insta-killed?" Chapter 1084. Chunlong was not a weakling. Whether it was his skills or equipment, Chunlong was one of the best among the 12 stars. Although Chunlong was just a fragile assassin, he had a full set of dark gold equipment. He would not die even if he took a mage's burst attack head-on. Now, he was instantly killed by a Grandmaster of Combat. It was truly shocking. Of course, the group of people from the 12 astrological constellations were only surprised at this time. They didn't have a face full of disbelief like the others in the tavern. After all, it wasn't the first time Fifth Dragon had been knocked down by a Grandmaster of Combat today. Just now, everyone had personally witnessed Fifth Dragon being casually thrown out by Wang Yu. However, this time, the Grandmaster of Combat wasn't so merciful and actually killed him directly. The whole of Windcloud and the 12 stars stared at Glacial Jade and the group of Grandmasters of Combat behind her. They were secretly shocked. Damn, are all the Grandmasters of Combat so cruel now? Meow, Iron Ox just left, and now this group of trash. Could it be that Grandmasters of Combat are the ultimate class in this game? Brother, these are the experts you found on the forums. Are you trying to ruin our jobs? Everyone pointed their middle fingers at Mouse. Just the strength that the Grandmaster of Combat had displayed just now was comparable to Wang Yu's. Inviting such a person was obviously trying to give up his position. Mouse's face was full of grievance. I swear, whoever did it on purpose is a grandson. Faced with the shocked and resentful gazes of the whole of Windcloud, Glacial Jade's face was still as calm as ever. How about it? Can we talk about the price now? Glacial Jade spread her hands and asked the whole of Windcloud calmly. The whole of Windcloud trembled and hurriedly nodded. Yes. Yes. As long as you can kill those people from Chuanjin, You can name your price. The whole of Wind Cloud was raised by the 12 stars from the novice village. The whole of Wind Cloud was very clear about the 12 stars' abilities. Even though Heavenly Wind Cloud was scolding Mouse and his group for being trash, he understood that the reason he lost so miserably wasn't because his 12 astral bodies were too weak, but because his opponents were too strong. Therefore, Heavenly Wind Cloud had only said those words out of anger. He didn't have much hope for Mouse and his group to find any helpers. However, after witnessing the strength of Pure Ice, Pure Jade, and the others, Great Wind Cloud's desire for revenge was once again ignited. Everyone here was a discerning person. Of course, they could see that these people in front of them belonged to the same level as Chuanjin. With the addition of such a group of people, it was possible that Chuanjin would have to kneel this time. At least you're sensible. I see Pure Jade said indifferently. We have heard of Chuanjin's group. They are not weak. How about 10,000 gold per level? It seemed that although Crystal Clear Jade's group was strong, they didn't have much of an eye for money. Compared to the strength of Chuanjin's group, 10,000 gold per level was indeed a fair price. The whole of Wind Cloud was not lacking in money. If he could really teach Chuanjin a lesson, this amount of money was nothing to him. At this moment, the whole of Wind Cloud immediately displayed the advantage that a rich person should have. In response to Icy Pure Jade's offer, the whole of Wind Cloud smiled and said, "The level is not important. What's important is that these people have my equipment. As long as you can retrieve the equipment, I will buy them all at the original price, be it mine or theirs. Of course, if you can kill them and cause them to drop a level, I will also pay. The price will be the same as what you just said, 10,000 gold per level." Deal. The whole of Wind Cloud had taken the initiative to increase the price. Naturally, Icy Pure Jade would not reject it. Icy Pure Jade nodded her head in satisfaction. She then stood up and turned around to leave. She came and left in a hurry, and her actions were clean and neat. Seeing that Icy Pure Jade was about to leave, the whole of Wind Cloud was startled and hurriedly said, "Miss Icy, don't leave yet." "Why?" Icy Pure Jade turned around and glanced at the 12 constellations. Finally, her gaze landed on the whole of Wind Cloud and said, "Do you want to buy me a drink? Sorry, I'm not used to sitting at the same table with trash." F***CK. The members of the 12 constellations trembled in anger. If it were not for the fact that they knew that they could not defeat Icy Pure Jade and her group, they would have already started fighting. No, that's not it. The whole of Wind Cloud's forehead was filled with black lines as he asked, don't you want a deposit or something?" "There's no need." Icy Pure Jade smiled lightly and stretched out her index finger. "I'm not afraid of you guys going back on your words." After saying that, Icy Pure Jade led her group out of the tavern without looking back, leaving behind a dumbfounded group of people. Seeing that Icy Pure Jade and her group had left, the whole of Wind Cloud wiped the sweat off his forehead and muttered, F***CK. This girl must be threatening me. Not only was Icy Pure Jade's word straightforward, she was also swift and decisive in her actions. After leaving the tavern, she led her group of people straight to the port. Just as they arrived at the port, the Grand Master of Combat who had strangled Qianlong to death suddenly said, "Sister, I think that if we want to deal with Chuanjin, we shouldn't go to Yu Huiqing now." "Why?" Icy Pure Jade turned around to look at the Grand Master of Combat and said, "Are you saying that Yu Huiqing is not allowed to enter now?" "No." The Grand Master of Combat said, Brother Yu is with Yu Huiqing now. I'm afraid. Afraid? Icy Pure Jade snorted coldly. "Little Nian, why have you become so cowardly now? Your sister is bringing people to fight for you, and you're telling me that you're afraid? Don't you think that our Li family has lost enough face?" Everyone was right. These people were not normal players. They were members of the Li family. If Chuanjin's people were here, they would definitely recognize that Icy Pure Jade was Li Yujia, and the Grand Master of Combat who was reprimanded was Li Yujia's younger brother, Li Yunyan. However, in the game, we should call him Nian Luyan. "Sister, Nian Luyan seemed to be very afraid of her sister. After being reprimanded by icy pure jade, Nian Luyun lowered her head and said hesitantly, "You don't know, brother Yu is not easy to deal with. I'm afraid that you be asterisk starred." Icy pure jade said angrily, "I'm at a disadvantage? Haven't I been at a disadvantage enough? That one guy is bullying us, and you're still trying to boost his morale and belittle your own? Don't you have any shame? You're not allowed to call him brother Yu. Do you hear me? If not, I'll beat you to death." But brother Yu, he scram. Before Nian Luyun could finish, icy pure jade's almond-shaped eyes widened in anger. She raised her leg and kicked Nian Luyun's leg, causing her to stumble and almost fall. Jia! Jia! Everyone was shocked when they saw the siblings getting into a fight. They hurriedly came over to calm icy pure jade down. "Let's talk this out. Don't get physical, humph." Icy pure jade glared angrily. "This disgraceful thing. If he doesn't dare to go, then we'll go." As she spoke, icy pure jade was about to bring her people onto the airship. At that moment, the burly Grandmaster of Combat, who had been standing not far from Nian Luyun, suddenly said, "Jia, I think Nian is right. It's not appropriate for us to go now." Chapter 1085. Iceborne Jade had always been a proud and aloof person, but she seemed to be rather respectful towards this large Grandmaster of Combat. Hearing the large Grandmaster of Combat speak up for Nian Luyun, Iceborne Jade's originally mourning for her misfortune and angry at her lack of ambition quickly calmed down. Although she was somewhat unhappy, Iceborne Jade still spoke softly. "Brother 13, why are you saying this too? Are you afraid of Wong too?" "Umph." The Grandmaster of Combat, called Brother 13, smiled lightly. "If I was afraid of him, I wouldn't have come with you. I just want to tell you that Wong is the Castellan of Yu Huicheng. In Yu Huicheng's territory, we can't defeat him." "Why?" Pure ice jade froze as she heard this. Her head was filled with confusion. 13 pointed to the sky. "Because the world is big, and the system is the biggest. Do you think the guards of Yu Huicheng will just watch us attack their Castellan?" Hearing 13's words, Iceborne Jade immediately calmed down. Martial arts practitioners all had a competitive heart. No matter how powerful Wang Yu's strength was, they had so many people, and an expert like 13 was here. They were not afraid of Wang Yu. However, everyone had seen the strength of the system guards. Then if Chuanjin stays in Yu Huicheng and doesn't come out, won't we be in trouble? Iceborne Jade asked after some thought. 13 said, "That's not it. It's fine as long as Wong isn't here." "Why?" "Because there is only one Castellan," 13 said calmly. Oh. Iceborne Jade nodded repeatedly. "That's right, the only one protected by the guards was the Castellan. As long as Wang Yu wasn't here, Chuanjin and his group wouldn't be able to do much against these martial arts experts." Then, Iceborne Jade frowned. "But our target is Wong. What's the point of capturing others?" Hee. 13 chuckled. "Of course we need bait to lure the snake out of its hole. Who said that people with well-developed limbs were simple-minded? This big guy looked like a fool, but his brain worked pretty fast. Indeed, Wang Yu was a very loyal person. If Chuanjin's group was arrested, Wang Yu's character would naturally not sit idly by. As long as Wang Yu left Yu Huicheng's territory, he would no longer be protected by Yu Huicheng's guards." As expected of Brother Shur-san, after understanding the meaning behind 13's words, Icy Pure Jade said with satisfaction, "It seems that bringing you here was the right decision." "Of course," 13 said proudly. "Then what do we do now?" Pure Ice Jade asked. "Go to Yu Huicheng. Didn't you say?" "Let's go to Yu Huicheng and find a place to hide. When that Wong guy isn't around, we'll make our move immediately," 13 said calmly. Meanwhile, after Chuanjin's group left Sky Dragon City, they returned to Yu Huicheng full of resentment. It could not be helped. It was hard for anyone to be happy after being tormented for so long and almost getting tricked. As they did not take the airship at Sky Dragon City's port, they escaped to other major cities. They did not have a guide in an unfamiliar place. Therefore, when Chuanjin's group stumbled back to Yu Huicheng, it was already 11 p.m. After hours of being lost and finally returning to their homeland, Chuanjin's group felt an unprecedented sense of familiarity. Wuji suggested excitedly, "Brothers, do you want to have a drink to celebrate?" "Get lost," everyone said angrily. "What's there to celebrate?" "Ha!" Wuji said. "Firstly, to celebrate our escape from death. Secondly, to celebrate our return to our homeland." "Boring." Everyone curled their lips to show that they were not interested. Seeing everyone's reaction, Wuji said, "My treat. Where are we going?" "I don't drink any wine below 1 gold coin." Everyone turned around immediately. "These bastards." Wuji clenched his teeth. "Old cow, are you going?" Wuji poked Wang Yu with his staff and asked. Wang Yu was a guy with a more regular work and rest schedule. Therefore, Wang Yu rarely hung out with Chuanjin at this time. Everyone knew Wang Yu's habits, so Wuji specifically asked. Wang Yu waved his hand and said, "You guys go ahead. I won't go. It's so late, I have to go offline. I'll play tomorrow." "Don't," Wuji said unhappily. "It's not easy for me to treat you. Aren't you going to give me face?" "Is that so?" Wang Yu scratched his head and said seriously, "If you feel bad, you can convert it into gold coins and give it to me." F***CK. Wuji said angrily, "Get lost. You're getting more and more shameless." Hee hee. Wang Yu chuckled and turned into a faint shadow as he logged out of the game. "We're going offline too." After Wang Yu left, Yang Na, an exquisite dream, followed closely behind. "Aya, don't learn from old cow. What time is it to go offline?" Wuji shouted anxiously. "Che." The girls laughed and said, "Sleeping late is not good for your skin." "Fine, forget it. If you don't want to go, I'll be fine." Wuji waved his hand and did not ask them to stay. They were girls, after all. If you don't let them show off, they will fight you with their lives. This was something Wuji deeply understood, especially when it came to the 2 girls from Chuanjin. Wuji could not afford to offend one of them, and the other one could not defeat him. Naturally, he would not provoke these 2 ladies at this time. After Wang Yu and the girls left, Chuanjin's group put their arms around each other's shoulders and walked toward the tavern. However, before they could take a few steps, 4 people suddenly jumped out from a corner and stood in front of Wuji's group, blocking their path. Chuanjin's group could be said to have been through hundreds of battles. Naturally, they could see the hostility of the players who were blocking their way. Wuji's group was not kind people to begin with. Now that they were in Yu Huiqing's territory, they were certainly not in a good mood when they saw someone blocking their way. This was especially true for Chuanjin's group. First, they were ambushed, and then they got lost. They had a belly full of anger waiting to be unleashed. Seeing someone provoking them, the hot-tempered Mingdu drew his staff and pointed it at the people blocking the way. "Good dogs don't block the way. Get lost before I start killing." Hee hee. How arrogant. As soon as Mingdu finished speaking, a woman's voice came from the front. "Bastards from Chuanjin, where are you going to die?" As she spoke, the 4 people blocking the way moved to the side. At this time, a man and a woman walked out from behind. "It's you and Memory Luyan." Seeing the 2 people, the Chuanjin's group was shocked. They subconsciously drew their weapons to protect their chests, and, at the same time, they took a few steps back. As Chuanjin's nemesis, Memory Luyan had fought with Chuanjin many times. Naturally, Wuji's group knew her. On the other hand, Crystal Jade had met her not long ago in Jiangbei. Although they didn't know her name, they had heard rumors about this young lady and Wang Yu. Chapter 1086. Breaking off an engagement and slapping someone's face had always been a popular tactic. The saying, "The river flows east for 30 years, then west for 30 years, don't bully a young man for being poor," made one's blood boil. Unfortunately, Wang Yu was playing the role of the person who would be slapped in the face in the usual routine. As for whether Icy Clear Jade and her group could even touch Wang Yu's face, Chuanjin did not dare to make a direct judgment. After all, they were facing a group of Kung Fu experts. However, the Chuanjin people could basically confirm that as Wang Yu's companion, they had already been classified as an accomplice. Now that they were blocking their way, it was obvious that they did not come with good intentions. Seeing that the Chuanjin people recognized her, Icy Clear Jade smiled and said, I didn't expect you to know me. So, are you going to surrender, or do you want us to make a move? As expected, this little girl was here for revenge. Hearing icy clear Jade's words, the Chuanjian people felt as if 10,000 wolves were galloping in their hearts. There was no need to mention the depression in their hearts. In fact, among icy clear Jade's group, the Chuanjian people had only seen Yan Liuyin's ability. Although they had not fought with the others directly, they had seen their videos. They could confirm that the opponents were all kung fu experts. The people from the Chuanjian sect were not professional martial arts critics, so they could not tell how much of a difference there was between these martial arts experts and Wang Yu. However, there was one thing they could be sure of. An expert of this level was definitely not someone ordinary people like them could deal with. It cannot be helped. After hanging out with Wang Yu every day, Chuanjian people had the most direct experience of how abnormal kung fu experts were. Now that they were facing so many abnormal people, everyone felt a deep sense of pressure. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but complain about Wang Yu. Meow, such a beautiful girl. How could the old cow just leave her like that? We have to suffer because of her. Of course, although that was the case, it was just the instinct of Chuanjian people to complain about each other. Chuanjian was not the kind of person who would retreat when faced with difficulties. To this group of people, even if the opponent could swallow them alive and turn them into shit, they had to be the thing that the opponent hated the most. As icy, clear Jade spoke, the group of people were already ready for battle. Ha! At this time, hearing the words of the pure ice Jade, Wuji laughed out loud and stood up. Miss, we have no enmity in the past. Why do you have to do this? Oh, icy pure Jade raised her eyebrows. Is that so? Of course, Wuji said righteously. We of Chuanjian have always been chivalrous and upholding world peace as our duty. We're the role model for all players. We've never done anything shameful, let alone offending a beautiful lady like you. If you have any personal grudges, please look for the person involved. Even an upright official can't settle a family dispute. Humph. Well said. Crystal clear, Ice laughed coldly. She suddenly stretched both her hands behind her. Suddenly, two wretched figures holding daggers appeared in the air behind Crystal clear Ice. Who else could it be but Ming Jian Daoxiu and Baiming Yoyu? Baiming Yoyu was fine. Her reaction speed was much faster than a normal person's. After being pushed by Crystal clear Ice, she took 2 steps back, then immediately used second stage stealth and disappeared again. Ming Jian Daoxiu was slightly weaker. In terms of real strength, Ming Jian Daoxiu was only a normal expert. Most of his skills were in his equipment. He could bully normal people, but in front of these martial arts experts, he was not enough. After being forced back to his original form by Crystal Clear Ice, at the same time, a Grandmaster of Combat beside Crystal Clear Ice quickly rushed in front of Ming Jian Daoxiu. Without waiting for Ming Jian Daoxiu to use second stage stealth, the Grandmaster of Combat casually grabbed Ming Jian Daoxiu's arm and twisted it behind his back. Immediately after, the Grandmaster of Combat pressed down, pressing Ming Jian Daoxiu to the ground. Damn! Seeing Ming Jian Daoxiu being captured, everyone was shocked. No matter how weak Ming Jian Daoxiu was, he was still an awakened expert. His basic attributes were also quite high, yet he had actually been captured in a single move. Even though everyone was mentally prepared for this group of people's strength, seeing this scene, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Crystal Clear Ice looked at Ming Jian Daoxiu, who was pressed on the ground and unable to move, with extreme disdain. She calmly said, "Pierce, tie this little thief up. Don't let him kill himself." Okay. The Grandmaster of Combat, who was called Pierce, nodded. He immediately stepped on Ming Jian Daoxiu's head, took out a rope, and deftly tied Ming Jian Daoxiu's left hand and right leg together behind his back, then threw him to the side. It was not hard to see that Crystal Clear Ice and her group were quite accomplished in the field of kidnapping. When a player encountered an emergency, they could kill themselves and return to the revival point. However, committing suicide required a throat-slitting action, This pierced guy directly tied Ming Jiandaoxue's left hand and right leg behind his back. Now, Ming Jiandaoxue was like a tied-up crab. Even moving was a problem, let alone killing himself. Seeing Ming Jiandaoxue in such a state, everyone from Xuanzhen felt sad. Crystal Clear Ice looked coldly at Wuji and said, "What do you think? Now we can't say that there is no enmity between us, can we?" "Huh." Wuji laughed and said, "What are you talking about? I don't know this person." As he spoke, Wuji sent a message in the channel. "Brother Spring and I will cover everyone's retreat. Mingdu, attack Ming Jiandaoxue. Don't leave him alive." As he spoke, Wuji raised his hands, and Bao San and Yin Lao Air activated invincibility. The two of them activated charge in the opposite direction. At that time, Spring Soar waved his staff, and a dark barrier rose up. He lined up with the 6 huge demons, forming a wall between the two sides. Mingdu raised his staff, and a bolt of lightning descended from the sky, striking Ming Jiandaoxue's head through the wall. In the game, being captured alive was far more terrifying than being dead. This was something that Xuanzhen understood better than anyone, especially Ming Jiandaoxue. He had done things like stealing equipment from others many times. If he was captured alive, who knew how terrible his fate would be? Rather than that, it was better to kill him. After all, dying would only reduce his experience by 10%. If he was captured, it was very likely that he would be stripped naked and hung on the city wall. However, Pure Ice and the others naturally wouldn't just watch as Ming Jiandaoxue was rescued. Seeing Ming Jiandaoxue hurl a lightning spell at him, Daopa didn't say anything else. He lifted his leg and kicked Ming Jiandaoxue. Ming Jiandaoxue's body slanted to the side, and the lightning just happened to brush past Ming Jiandaoxue before landing on the ground. F***CK. Seeing that he did not manage to rescue Ming Jiandaoxue with one move, Mingdu cursed. He was about to cast another spell when he saw a black shadow fly over the dark barrier and land in front of Mingdu. Thought Luyun. After seeing who it was, Mingdu was shocked. He turned around and was about to teleport away when Thought Luyun formed a claw and grabbed Mingdu's shoulder, pulling him back. Chapter 1087. Seeing the group of people in front of him, Mingdu's head was filled with question marks. He doubted his life for a moment. Then he picked up his staff and smashed it down on Crystal Jade's head. Everyone knew that mages were physically weak and were a typical long-range class. Mages who engage in melee combat are not mages. They're called drunk from 1,000 miles, from Teacher Butterfly Blue's close combat mages in online games. Mingdo was such a shameless person, but he couldn't be compared to Teacher Gu. This brat didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. At such a close distance, any close combat profession could beat him up, let alone a group of kung fu experts like Crystal Jade. As soon as Mingdo's staff was thrown out, a few men beside Crystal Clear Jade immediately pounced on it, and in a few seconds, Mingdo was trampled on the ground. Mingdu crawled on the ground and begged, "Big sis, don't do that. I was just joking. You're so pretty. Old Cow would be blind if he didn't want you. You're a great person and don't hold grudges against him. For my sake, don't lower yourself to his level." Crystal Jade was already wary of Wang Yu breaking off the engagement. It would have been better if Mingdu didn't say it, but as soon as he said it, Crystal Jade's face darkened. "Pull him up." Crystal Jade glared at Mingdu and ordered. When Dao Pa heard this, he stretched out his hand and lifted Radiant City up. "Pa pa 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 pa." Crystal Jade slapped Mingdu a few times, then said with a darkened face, "Tie him up." "Okay." Dao Pa answered and was about to tie Mingdu up. At that moment, Mingdu's hands that were pulled behind his back made a strange gesture. Suddenly, a fire burst out from under everyone's feet. Crystal Jade and the others were better off as they were further away from Mingdu. When they felt the heat wave under their feet, they quickly jumped back out of Mingdu's magic range. Dao Pa was in a worse situation. He was trying to tie up Mingdu with a rope. He couldn't dodge in time and was instantly burned into a ball of white light. "Ha! You want to catch me?" It won't be that easy. Mingdu laughed, turned around, and ran. Bastard, where do you think you're going? At this moment, Crystal Ice and Jade shot forward like an arrow. With a wave of her right hand, an incomparably long great spear appeared in her hand. Go! Following that, Icy Pure Jade let out an angry roar and thrust her spear forward, piercing through Mingdu's ankle and nailing him to the ground. Aya! Mingdu was caught off guard and his foot was pierced. He screamed and fell to the ground. Damn you! How can this girl run so fast? Mingdu cursed as he turned his head. When he saw the great spear in Ice Pure Jade Maiden's hand, he was immediately stunned. The spear in Crystal Pure Jade's hand should be specially made. It was more than 3 meters long, which was more than a meter longer than the ordinary spears used by knights. Mingdu didn't learn Kung Fu, so he couldn't understand why Crystal Pure Jade Maiden's spear was so long. However, he knew that using this thing to stab someone, even if they had to run a few meters first, they wouldn't have to worry about running away. After putting Mingdu down, Crystal Pure Jade followed closely behind and arrived in front of Mingdu. She casually put away her great spear and kicked Mingdu, causing him to tumble on the ground. As the saying goes, learn from the mistakes of the past. What technique Mingdu used just now obviously couldn't escape the eyes of the observant Kung Fu experts. In order to make Mingdu behave, everyone specially used 2 ropes to tie up Mingdu's left leg and right hand behind his back, while his right leg and left hand were tied in front of him. This posture would definitely embarrass any yoga expert. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in a game, Mingdu's small body would have already been torn to pieces. After everyone wrapped up Mingdu and threw him next to Mingji and Daoshua, thought Luyun had already taken down both Wuji and Spring Soar. No matter how skilled Wuji and Spring Soar were, they were only support classes. They couldn't do anything in front of a PvP class like Thought Luyun. Moreover, Thought Luyun was very strong and only had a few weaknesses compared to Wang Yu. Dealing with Wuji and Spring Soar was obviously a piece of cake. At this moment, apart from Bao San, Yin Lao Air, and Baiming Yu, only to place one's pride was left. In front of him was Crystal Pure Jade, and behind him was Thought Luyun. To place one's pride could be said to be surrounded by strong enemies. To place one's pride had a serious expression on his face. He leaned against the wall and stared at everyone, ready to strike. To place one's pride may have been foolishly bullied by these old foxes, but he was actually the one who understood the situation the best. As a grandmaster of combat, to place one's pride knew his own limits. He knew that he was no match for them in terms of technique, but as an awakened expert, to place one's pride had 2 ultimate skills, Rapid Shadow Kick and Triple Thunderbolt Kick. These 2 skills could instantly kill someone at this stage. As long as he found the right time, it wasn't hard to kick an opening and escape. Seeing that to place one's pride was still resisting stubbornly, Thought Luyun had a good impression of him. She stared at to place one's pride and said, "Kid, seeing that you're a grandmaster of combat, I won't make things difficult for you. Just come with us and save yourself some physical pain." To place one's pride raised his head and looked at Thought Luyun. Just as he was about to kick him, the ground behind Thought Luyun, where Wuji and Baiming Yu had been thrown, moved. Then, Baiming Yoyu's head popped out from the ground. At this moment, Icy Jade pointed at Baiming Yoyu and shouted, "Not good, little Nyan. There's someone behind you." Thought Luyun was startled. Turning around, he saw Baiming Yoyu holding a dagger and cutting the rope on Wuji's hand. In the blink of an eye, Thought Luyun turned around and kicked at Baiming Yoyu. Now, Rapid Shadow Kick. To place one's pride's eyes narrowed. He kicked at Thought Luyun's back. Feeling the murderous intent behind him, Thought Luyun quickly rolled forward, dodging to place one's pride's flying kick. At the same time, to place one's pride leaped into the air, spreading his wings and flying into the sky. Baiming Yu also took the opportunity to use Earth Escape and burrow into the ground. Fuck! Seeing to place one's pride and Baiming Yu run away, Icy Jade cursed, pointing it to place one's pride in the sky. Don't worry about the one burrowing into the ground. Dao Ming, stay here and watch. Everyone else, follow me, and chase after the one in the sky." As she spoke, Icy Jade ran a few steps and stepped on the wall to fly up to the room. Thought Luyun and the rest followed closely behind, jumping onto the roof. Flying in the sky had an advantage over running on the ground, mainly because flying in the air would not be affected by the terrain and could walk in a straight line. However, against Icy Jade's group of experts, to place one's pride's advantage in flying clearly wasn't that outstanding. After all, Icy Jade's group were martial arts experts, and their proficiency on the roof wasn't much lower than Wang Yu's. Although running on the roof wasn't as unaffected by the terrain as using flight, most of the time, they could still walk in a straight line. Chapter 1088. To place one's pride blindly flew around while Pure Ice and the others chased after him. Finally, to place one's pride flew to the south of the city. To place one's pride's flying time was used up, and place one's pride fell into the alley below. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared in front of to place one's pride. Seeing that figure, to place one's pride shouted as if he was grasping at straws, "Sister Nyo, save me." That's right, the person who appeared in the alley was Mu Zixin. With Wang Yu as her living signboard, Mu Zixin's business had always been good. Today, it was even better. She had been busy until now, and it was already 11 at night. Mu Zixin was planning to close the shop when she heard someone call her. She looked towards the direction of the voice. Seeing that the person calling for help was actually to place one's pride, Mu Zixin couldn't help but be startled. One had to know that Xuanjin's name in Yuhuicheng was like the sun in the sky. Even a big guild like Blood Alliance had to stay away from them. To place one's pride was running away in such a sorry state. It was really weird. Mu Zixin asked in confusion, "It's little chick, what's wrong?" Don't ask." To place one's pride hurriedly said, "Someone is chasing me. Let me hide in the shop." As he said that, to place one's pride ran into Mu Zixin's shop. Mu Zixin was dumbfounded. To place one's pride was quite an expert. What kind of person could chase this kid like this? Could it be Wang Yu? No, Wang Yu wasn't online right now. Mu Zixin looked at her friends list and felt even more weird. Although it was strange, to place one's pride was Wang Yu's friend. To place one's pride entered the grocery store. Mu Zixin quickly ordered the store to close. At that time, Icy Pure Jade and the others had also caught up to them. Seeing that there were people in the alley below, they jumped down from the roof. Nian Liyun walked in front of Mu Zixin and asked politely, "Miss, did you see a child just now?" Mu Zixin frowned slightly. She sized up Nian Liyun, then smiled and said, "Kid, are you a grandmaster of combat?" Yes. Nian Liyun nodded. "Aren't you?" Mu Zixin said with a faint smile. "It's not me," Nian Liyun said anxiously. "It's a kid younger than me, about 18 or 19 years old. He's also a grandmaster of combat." "Oh." Mu Zixin nodded and said, "You mean that child? I saw him." "Where'd he go?" Nian Liyun asked again. Mu Zixin pointed at the alley entrance and said, "He ran that way." "Thank you, miss." Nian Liyun gave Mu Zixin a fist salute. Just as she was about to run toward the alley entrance, Icy Pure Jade suddenly said, "Wait, what's wrong, sister?" Nian Liyun stopped and asked curiously when she heard Icy Pure Jade's voice. "Mph." The Pure Ice Jade heroine coldly snorted and walked in front of Mu Zixin. She looked at Mu Zixin and said, "Miss, you look familiar. Have we met before?" When Mu Zixin heard this, she hurriedly turned her head to look at Icy Pure Jade. Their eyes met, and the two ladies were stunned. They pointed at each other and said in surprise, It's you? Sister, do you know this lady?" Nian Liyun saw Icy Pure Jade's reaction and asked curiously. "Nonsense," Icy Pure Jade said in an unfriendly tone. "I can recognize her even if she turns into ashes. Tie her up." What did you say?" Hearing Icy Pure Jade's order, Nian Liyun was still unable to react. Icy Pure Jade pointed at Mu Zixin and said, "I told you to tie her up. This isn't good." When Nian Liyun reacted to Icy Pure Jade's order, she was even more confused. She was clearly chasing after Xuanjin's men. Why was she competing with a lady on the side of the road? "What do you know?" Icy pure jade pointed at Mu Zixian and said, "She's that little bitch." Mu Zixian was not the type to be insulted. Hearing icy pure jade scolding her, she immediately became angry and said, "Watch your mouth. Who is a little bitch scolding?" Icy pure jade pointed at Mu Zixian and said, "So what if the little bitch scolds you?" Hee hee. Mu Zixian took advantage of the situation with her mouth. She smiled and turned to leave. At this time, Icy pure jade shouted at Nian Luyuan anxiously, "What are you waiting for? Don't let her get away." Nian Luyuan was also a smart child. For someone to make icy pure jade so agitated, Nian Luyuan did not need to think too much to guess. Thus, he immediately rushed over to block Mu Zixian's path. Mu Zixian was only a level 10 smurf. Her gaming skills were on the other end of the spectrum compared to Wang Yu. How could she be a match for Nian Luyuan? In one round, Mu Zixian was captured by Nian Luyuan. Nian Luyuan was an honest child. Seeing that Mu Zixian was a woman, he did not tie her hands and feet together like the rest of Chuanjin's men. He only tied Mu Zixian's hands behind her back. "Let me go! Let me go!" Mu Zixian screamed as she struggled. However, Nian Luyuan and the others were very experienced in tying knots. Even Wuji and the rest were unable to break free, let alone a small fry like Mu Zixian. No matter how much Mu Zixian screamed or struggled, it was useless. Hee hee. After capturing Mu Zixian, Icy Pure Jade seemed to be in a good mood. Originally, she only wanted to capture Chuanjin's men as bait. Who would have thought that there would be an unexpected reward? With Mu Zixian as a hostage, she did not believe that Wang Yu would not come to rescue her. Mu Zixian screamed and struggled, causing Nian Luyuan to feel helpless. However, Icy Pure Jade was not angry. Instead, she said with a look of enjoyment, "Continue screaming. I like seeing you like this." You. Hearing Icy Pure Jade's words, Mu Zixian was stunned. She glared at Icy Pure Jade and said, "You perverted woman." Icy Pure Jade spread her hands and smiled. "So what? If you want to scream, scream loudly. I'm very happy just listening to you." Hearing this, Mu Zixian coldly snorted and said no more. Seeing Mu Zixian shut up, Icy Pure Jade's face flashed with a proud smile. "Let's go. Let's meet up with the others." "We're leaving just like that?" Nian Luyuan asked stubbornly. "Aren't we going to capture that kid?" "Idiot." Icy Pure Jade poked Nian Luyuan's head with her finger. Then, she pulled the rope on Mu Zixian's hand and said, "She's enough. Why waste the effort to capture a piece of trash? Let's go." Saying this, Icy Pure Jade personally dragged Mu Zixian out of the alley with Nian Luyuan and the others. Behind the door of the miscellaneous goods store, To Place One's Pride saw that Mu Zixian had been captured in order to save him. He fell on his butt. To Place One's Pride felt a chill run down his spine. To Place One's Pride panicked as he leaned on the door and said with a trembling voice, "And I, Mother of Asterisk Kerr, Sister Neo has been captured. I'm in big trouble. I'm going to die." Chapter 1089. Everyone in Chuanjin knew that Wang Yu was a henpecked man. Don't think that Wang Yu was usually quiet and didn't have a temper with anyone. If anyone dared to bully his wife, they could just wash their necks and wait. Originally, if Pure Ice dared to capture Mu Zixian, it was purely courting death. But now that Mu Zixian was captured to Place One's Pride, the situation was completely different. Although Gao also knew that Wang Yu wasn't the kind of person who liked to vent her anger on others, it also depended on the time. If it involved Mu Zixian, Gao really didn't dare to be sure that he wouldn't be punished together with her. Especially after seeing Pure Ice's attitude towards Mu Zixian, To Place One's Pride could almost see Wang Yu chasing after him with a knife in hand. In the game, players couldn't go offline unless they were out of combat. Even if they were forced to go offline during combat, the game character would still remain in the game. Now that Mu Zixian and the others were tied up, they definitely couldn't leave combat. Therefore, Mu Zixian had to think twice before going offline. As for what Pure Ice would do after kidnapping Mu Zixian, To Place One's Pride didn't dare to imagine. The more one understood Wang Yu, the more one would know how terrifying Wang Yu was. To place one's pride and Wang Yu had mingled together for so long. To place one's pride was getting more and more afraid after causing such a huge incident. How could he dare to think of something even more terrifying? Of course, to place one's pride might be afraid, but as a member of Qiuanjin, to place one's pride was a rather responsible person. After being stunned for a moment, to place one's pride clenched his teeth and made up his mind. Damn it, I can only take responsibility for the trouble I caused. If I really can't handle it, I'll just kill Sister Niu. That's better than being kidnapped. I have to settle this matter before old cow explodes. Otherwise, no one will be able to escape responsibility. To place one's pride stood up and walked out of the shop. Then, he followed the path he came from. At this time, Clear Ice, Clear Jade, and Thought Luyan had already brought Mu Zixian to the place where Qiuanjin was blocked and met up with the others. Wu Ji and the others were tied up and thrown into a corner, looking quite miserable. It couldn't be helped. According to the game settings, players would not be protected if they were forced to log out of the game. Qiuanjin's group was fully geared with top-tier equipment, so they did not dare to log out of the game at this time. Otherwise, they would suffer a huge loss if even one of their equipment was stolen. Plop! Icy Pure Jade bluntly threw Mu Zixian not too far away from Wu Ji and the others. When Wu Ji and the rest saw Mu Zixian's appearance, they were all stunned. Damn, this group of bastards, don't they know that they're holding a nuclear warhead? After a long time, Wu Ji cried in horror. What do you want to do? If you have any problems, just come at us. Why do you want to catch this girl? Why do you want to make things difficult for other women? Icy Pure Jade glanced at Wu Ji and ignored him. Then, he asked his subordinates, who else is not here yet? Thought Luyan looked around and said, 13 went to catch those 2 warriors. He's not back yet. I'm back. Just as Thought Luyan finished speaking, a burly figure jumped down from the roof. It was 13, who had chased after Bao San and Yin Lao Air at the start. Duong, Duong. After 13 landed, he loosened his grip and threw the tightly bound Bao San and Yin Lao Air to the ground. He said with lingering fear, damn, I really can't underestimate this group of gaming geeks. I was almost killed by them just now. Why did they catch a girl? As he spoke, 13 also glanced at Mu Zixian, who was on the ground, and was very surprised. Icy Pure Jade said coldly, they're taking Wang's wife. TSK. Wang's luck with women is not bad. 13 chuckled and sighed as he walked towards Mu Zixian. You? Don't come over. Mu Zixian saw 13 walking towards her and was shocked. She retreated in a panic. Seeing this, Icy Pure Jade's eyes narrowed. He pulled out his spear and thrust it forward. Whoosh! Icy Pure Jade spear stabbed in front of 13, blocking his path. 13 was shocked by Icy Pure Jade's sudden attack. He turned around and glared at Icy Pure Jade. What's the meaning of this? Icy Pure Jade pulled back her spear, leveled her gaze at 13, and said, nothing much. I'll take care of this girl myself. If you don't want to die, you'd better behave yourself. You. 13's face darkened. It seemed like he was not done with Icy Pure Jade. What do you want? When Yin Luyan and the others saw 13's reaction, they took a step forward and stood in front of Glacial Jade. Haha. 13 knew he wouldn't be able to take advantage of Yin Liuyun's group. He glanced at Yin Liuyun's group and laughed. I was just joking. You don't have to be like this. Boss has the final say, all right? At least you know what's good for you. Icy Pure Jade coldly looked at 13. He quickly walked to Mu Zixian's side and put her on his shoulder. You guys carry the others. Let's go. As she spoke, Icy Pure Jade brought Mu Zixian to the nearby port. The others also scooped up the captured Qiuanjin members from the ground and followed behind Pure Ice and Pure Jade. Seeing that Icy Pure Jade had saved her, Mu Zixian said, I didn't know that you had a bottom line. Don't try to get close to me. Icy Pure Jade coldly said, I just don't want that brat to have his account deleted by the system for harassing a female player. Is that so? Mu Zixian was skeptical. Shut up. The Pure Ice Jade glared at Mu Zixian, then ignored her. Indeed, Right now, Pure Ice Jade's group kidnapping the Quanjin sex people could already be considered as pushing the boundaries of the system. If they went a bit further, it could even be considered as harassment. If 13 really was judged as harassment by the system, then Pure Ice Jade's group would also be implicated. Deleting their accounts was a small matter. They might even have to go to jail. Of course, this was only one of the reasons. Although Icy Pure Jade was arrogant and despotic, she was a martial artist after all. She wasn't a bad person. Everything she did was dictated by her personality. Wuji said it so well. Why would a woman make things difficult for another woman? Icy Pure Jade knew what to do and what not to do in this situation. After all, she only wanted to take revenge on Wang Yu. Hatred always made people lose their way. It was only 300 to 400 meters from the block streets of Chuanjin to the port. Soon, Icy Pure Jade's group boarded the airship heading towards Tianlong City. Just as the airship took off, Mu Zixian received a private message from Wuji. Sister Niu, forcefully log off. Forcefully log off? Is that okay? Mu Zixian asked. Wuji said, this is a safe zone. It's fine. What about you guys? Mu Zixian asked again. Wuji said, it's useless to forcefully log off in this state. When the airship arrives at the port, it will still be towed away. Aren't I the same? Mu Zixian was puzzled. Chapter 1091. According to the system's settings, after Wuji and the others logged off, their characters would still exist. Even if they forcefully logged off, they wouldn't be able to stop their characters from being dragged to another city's port by Pure Ice and the others. Therefore, there was no point for Wuji and the others to log off right now. Mu Zixian, on the other hand, needed at least half an hour to travel from one city's port to another. This half an hour was more than enough for Mu Zixian to log off and call for Wang Yu. Against this group of people, Wang Yu had to be the one. After all, only martial arts could defeat martial arts. Mu Zixian wasn't a stubborn person. After hearing Wuji's words, she nodded and chose to forcefully log off. As a martial arts practitioner, Wang Yu had to eat small meals every day to maintain a balanced diet. Therefore, he had to eat something every day after logging off. Therefore, under normal circumstances, Mu Zixian would log off early to cook for Wang Yu. At this time, Wang Yu logged off happily and saw that Mu Zixian was still in the game. He didn't disturb her. He washed his face, pulled out a shirt from the clothes rack, and put it on before leaving. Pure Ice and the others were very efficient. From the time Wang Yu logged off to the time Mu Zixian and the others were captured, only a few minutes had passed. After Mu Zixian forcefully logged off, she wanted to call for Wang Yu to come online and save them. However, she unexpectedly found that Wang Yu wasn't home. This wasn't the most tragic thing. What was even more tragic was that Wang Yu never had the habit of bringing his cell phone outside. Ugh. Seeing that Wang Yu wasn't home, Mu Zixian's expression changed. Where did he go? Why didn't he tell me? Did he have an affair? Little Na seems to have logged off early today as well. Could it be the two of them? No way. How could it not be? There isn't a single good man in this world. Reality had proven that when a woman was anxious, her thoughts would not follow any rules. Mu Zixian was also a woman. At this moment, when she could not see her husband, her brain circuit directly broke through the horizon. As for the crisis of Chuanjin's survival, it had long been tossed beyond the highest heavens. She had no choice. How could she allow others to sleep beside her bed? Especially when Yang Na and Wang Yu had such a relationship. In addition to Li Yujia's recent harassment, it was hard for Mu Zixian's imagination to run wild. Just as Mu Zixian was about to go to the opposite house to ask about the situation, the door of the house rang. Then, Wang Yu walked in with a plastic bag. Seeing that Wang Yu had returned home, Mu Zixian angrily rushed over and angrily asked, "What were you doing so late at night? Did he go out with another woman?" Hearing Mu Zixian's words, Wang Yu's head was instantly filled with black question marks. Well, what nonsense are you talking about? What a mess. Wang Yu asked with a dumbfounded look. Mu Zixian said angrily, "What do you think I'm saying? Look at the time, and you still went out. You still dare to say that I'm a mess?" Wang Yu held back a mouthful of blood and said while holding the plastic bag, "I went out to buy food." Really? Mu Zixin glanced at the plastic bag in Wang Yu's hand and asked doubtfully. Wang Yu broke down and said frantically, "Then what else can I do? If you don't believe me, you can ask the owner of the restaurant outside the district. This meal was taken from him. He didn't even ask me for money." Oh. Mu Zixin took another look at the lunchbox. When she saw the restaurant's logo on the lunchbox, Mu Zixin nodded and said, "All right, I guess you managed to fool me. I'll forgive you if you apologize to me. See that? This is a woman. In the future, if you're lucky enough to find a girlfriend, you must remember Uncle Nyo's teachings. Don't reason with women. Forgive?" Wang Yu was depressed again. What did I do wrong? Of course, Chuanjin's model of loving his wife, Brother Chun, said, "A real man has to be responsible. If your wife says you are wrong, then you are wrong. Talking back is not a good comrade." Wang Yu remembered his senior's teachings. He knew how to be a husband, so he lowered his head and apologized to Mu Zixin. "That's more like it. Let's eat." Mu Zixin took the lunchbox with a satisfied smile and went into the kitchen to put the rice that Wang Yu bought into the dishes. The two of them happily ate supper. "Speaking of which, you went offline quite late today," Wang Yu asked while eating. "And the restaurant was busy." Mu Zixin answered casually. "Are you done now?" Mu Zixin thought about it and said, "I should be done, but I keep feeling that there's something I haven't done." Wang Yu said, "Don't think about it if you can't remember. Let's eat first." "All right. Speaking of which, today's dishes seem a bit salty. Is that so? Then eat more buns." At the same time, Wu Ji and the others in the game were already in tears. Chun Xiang looked at the time. 20 minutes had passed, and the airship was about to reach the port. Thus, he asked Wu Ji weakly, "Wu Ji, do you think that old cow's wife is reliable?" "This, I can't say for sure." Wu Ji was also terrified. How troublesome could it be to just go offline and call someone? It had already been 20 minutes, and they still hadn't returned. Could it be that there was a power outage? No matter how smart Wu Ji was, he was just an old bachelor. He couldn't figure out why Mu Zixin had forgotten about them. It had been so long, but Wang Yu still hadn't come online. He could only think of external reasons. "Umph." Bao San snorted. "I told you, women can't be relied on. It's over, it's over." Mingdu shouted in despair. "I think these bastards will definitely find a resurrection point to kill us 100 times after reaching the port. They'll kill us until we're level 0 and steal our equipment at the same time. It can't be. The resurrection point is a safe zone. How can they kill people?" Famous Sword Daoshua questioned. Mingdu said angrily, "Are there no resurrection points that aren't safe zones?" Everyone was indifferent at this moment. A familiar voice suddenly whispered, "Yes, the resurrection point of the guild encampment isn't a safe zone. As long as each of you gives me 10,000 gold coins, I'll save you." "Little chick, you're so stupid. Why didn't you get caught?" Everyone heard this voice and hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a guy in a cloak sitting in a corner not far from them. F***CK. Hearing everyone's words, the cloaked guy's body trembled. F***CK. You guys can even see through my disguise? Everyone said, "Of course." You can even smell the smell of a real dog's voice against the wind. "What the F***CK are you doing here? Sending us family joy?" To place one's pride, said angrily, "Bullsh**T. Of course I'm here to save you. Hurry up and pay up. Otherwise, you'll be dragged to the guild encampment and beaten to death." "Save." Mingdu curled his lips. "By yourself? What? You still dare to look down on me when you're tied up like this?" To place one's pride was furious. Chapter 1092. **T. **T. To place one's pride, cursed, as he tried to move closer to the others. At this time, Wu Ji suddenly said, "Brat, stop fooling around. We are now on the airship. What you're doing is useless. If you really want to save us, you should at least find a place where we can escape." The airship was only so big. Even if immortal pride rescued everyone, it would be useless. In such a situation, only the guards could forcefully throw everyone off the airship. Players couldn't leave the airship, and the guards wouldn't listen to immortal pride's commands. If Chuanjin wanted to use his flying advantage to escape, he had to at least find a relatively open terrain. Otherwise, even if he could untie the ropes, he would be captured again. Then what should we do? We have to get Sister Neo out. Otherwise, Uncle Neo will beat me to death. To place one's pride said and glanced at Mu Zixian. He then wondered, why isn't Sister Neo saying anything? Wuji thought for a moment and looked at to place one's pride with an expressionless face. She went offline to call for Old Cow. F***CK? Do you think Uncle Neo will kill us when he comes online? To place one's pride heard this, and his heart almost jumped out. Everyone said with tears streaming down their faces. I hope Old Cow comes online and kills us. But from the looks of it, Old Cow's wife must have forgotten about us. Fortunately, to place one's pride wiped his sweat. How can you say that? Everyone was angry. I am saying that you can leave such a small matter like saving you to me. To place one's pride quickly said. Everyone, just as everyone expected, Mu Zixian had really forgotten what they had asked her to do. When everyone remembered that Li Shui and the others were living with Wang Yu, the girls had already gone offline. Obviously, the girls were more concerned about their image. Sleeping early and waking up early was a basic routine. A few minutes later, the airship began to descend. As the airship slowly descended, everyone could see the scenery of their destination. Damn, isn't this the Heavenly Dragon City? After seeing the surrounding scenery, everyone finally knew where they had been brought to. At the same time, they also understood the real reason why Glacial Jade and his group had come to capture them. Heavenly Dragon City only had two enemies. If they wanted to find trouble during the end of the world, they wouldn't have waited until now. They also didn't have that much money to spare. From this, it could be seen that the mastermind behind this group of people was none other than Feng Yantian. Meow, being rich was really awesome. He could even get 7 of such rare kung fu masters. Oh, it seems like you know this place? 13 turned his head and asked with a smile. Hee. Wuji smiled and said, who doesn't know the famous Heavenly Dragon City? That's right. You didn't come looking for us for no reason, right? Of course not. 13 said indifferently. Someone paid us to deal with Chuanjin. No wonder. Wuji pondered for a moment and said, tell me who that person is, and I'll pay double for you to kill them. How about that? Sure. 13 said without hesitation, but I'm a trustworthy person. Since I've already promised someone, I have to finish it. Why don't I deal with you guys first, then kill Feng Yantian? F***CK. That be *TCH. If it weren't for his ugly face, I think you would be able to enter Chuanjin. Seeing 13's despicable face, the Chuanjin people felt like they were on the same wavelength. Oomph. Wuji snorted and said in the guild channel, as expected of Feng Yantian, this won't be easy to deal with. Damn, this be *starred is really haunting us. Everyone clenched their fists. Thinking that their opponent was Feng Yantian, even these fearless scoundrels couldn't help but feel despair. Of course, Wuji wasn't afraid of Feng Yantian, but Feng Yantian's identity as the Castellan of Sky Dragon City. Feng Yantian had 7 martial arts experts under him, which was already very difficult to deal with. In addition, he had the authority to command the guards. Even if Wang Yu came, it wouldn't be easy for them to leave. After all, the guard were above the rules. Damn it, I Chuanjin have been a hero for a lifetime. Am I really going to fall in the hands of that second-generation brat? I can't accept this. Just as the people of Quanzhen were sighing and groaning, the airship finally arrived at the port. Icy Pure Jade walked to Mu Zixian's side and pulled her up, slung her over her shoulder, and said, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, first cover their eyes. As she spoke, Icy Pure Jade took out a tattered piece of black cloth and covered Mu Zixian's eyes with it. The others followed suit and covered the eyes of Wuji and the others. Although the purpose of these guys capturing Chuanjin was to lure Wang Yu to Celestial Dragon City, they still had the task of stripping Chuanjin naked. If Wang Yu came early, it would definitely be delayed. Things had to be done one by one. Since they were going to meet sooner or later, there was no need to rush. When pure ice and jade blindfolded Wuji and the others, everyone started to panic. It seemed that to place one's pride was right. Heavenly Wind Cloud's group was looking for a guild encampment to slowly kill and loot their equipment. Currently, there were quite a few guilds with residences in Heavenly Dragon City. With whole of Wind Cloud's wealth and the identity of Heavenly Dragon City Lord, it was not difficult for them to buy a more secluded guild residence. After all, when a player's level was lower than the required level, the equipment would definitely drop. It seemed that Xuanzhen was back to square one. What should we do? What should we do? Wuji and Spring Soar were relatively calm, but Mingdu was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Things are different now. In the past, everyone was playing a keystroke game. The only way to take revenge was to chase and kill. No matter how much Xuanzhen wanted to die, the most they could do was kill them a few times. Moreover, with the wretched tempers of Xuanzhen, they would log off immediately after dying once. They would not give their opponents a second chance to kill them. Who would have thought that they would end up like rice dumplings, thrown into the resurrection point, and be surrounded? This was something that had never happened before. To place one's pride could empathize with his comrades who were in danger. He could not be bothered to joke around anymore. He clenched his fist and shouted, "Damn it, why don't I fight them to the death? I'll save as many as I can. At most, we'll all die together. Good brother, we will never forget you. Go, but remember to burn Joss paper for us." Seeing that to place one's pride was so loyal, Mingdu was so touched that he started to spout nonsense. "All right, stop talking nonsense." At that time, Wuji said calmly, "Young man, don't be rash. Who do you think you should save first?" To place one's pride heard this and immediately stopped talking. Chapter 1093. Save Musician? Clearly, this was a matter of life and death. Compared to the 6 awakened main accounts, Musician's level 15 account was negligible. Save Xuanzhen's people? This was a matter of life and death. Even if it was one's own wife or mother, they would feel resentful if they weren't saved first, let alone a group of friends. Under these circumstances, either he saved all of them or he didn't save any of them. Otherwise, whoever he saved later would inevitably hurt their brotherhood. Then what should I do? To place one's pride asked helplessly. Follow behind them in case. We can't even find a place when reinforcements come to save us. Wuji said. To place one's pride froze and asked, "Uncle Nyo, will he come back? If he can't come, then we can only save ourselves." Immediately after, Wuji sighed and said, "AI, looks like we owe Dugu Juqiang a favor this time." "Dugu Juqiang? He will save us?" Mingdu asked Wuji in astonishment. Meow, Dugu Juqiang and Xuanzhen were old enemies. Now that Xuanzhen was in such a state, Dugu Juqiang was secretly happy. Why would he help? It was already good enough that he didn't hit them when they were down. "He will," Wuji said with certainty. Why? Everyone was puzzled as to why Wuji was so confident. Wuji coldly snorted and said, "Because he wants to be the city lord." Indeed, Dugu Juqiang had coveted the city lord of Sky Dragon City for a long time. Everyone knew that he wanted to be the city lord. Now that he asked Dugu Juqiang for help, there was indeed a suitable reason. Of course, as for whether or not Dugu Juqiang would help, that would depend on Wuji's eloquence. The greatest confidant in life was one's opponent. Wuji had a thorough understanding of Dugu Juqiang's schedule. It was not even midnight yet. For a gaming geek like Dugu Juqiang, it was the golden time, so he should be online. Wuji opened his friends list and found Dugu Juqiang. He sent a message, "Songshin, are you there?" Soon, Dugu Juqiang replied, ****, not here. Hee. Seeing Dugu Juqiang's message, Wuji smiled knowingly. This bastard, if he spoke nicely to you would definitely think that Wuji had a favor to ask of him and ignore him. But if he scolded him, he would definitely not suffer a loss. "Not here. Then, is the person talking to me a dog?" Wuji asked provocatively again. Dugu Juqiang said angrily, "F***ck off. Are you looking for trouble? How dare you scold me in the middle of the night?" If you have anything to say, just say it. Hey, Wuji said. Little coward, do you have a business to do? F*CK, what business? Dugu Jiuqiang was the boss of the guild after all. He didn't ignore the main point when he scolded. It's just a small business. Seeing that Dugu Jiuqiang had taken the bait, Wuji said lightly, it's the Castellan of Sky Dragon City. TSK. Hearing Wuji's words, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately laughed. Sky Dragon City has a Castellan for a long time. Isn't it enough for Chuanjin to fool me once? Dugu Jiuqiang was also a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. This bastard actually forcefully put the blame of Wang Yu on Chuanjin. However, now that Wuji had a favor to ask, he was too lazy to defend himself. Moreover, Wang Yu was Chuanjin's man. What Wang Yu did was what Chuanjin did. There was nothing wrong with this. Dugu Jiuqiang didn't take the bait, so Wuji tried to persuade him patiently. I say, follow your heart. Are you just going to watch that kid become a Castellan? You have tens of thousands of people under you, and he only has a dozen. How can a dozen people ride on the heads of tens of thousands of people? There is. Isn't Yu Huicheng an example? Dugu Jiuqiang retorted. Heh, that doesn't count. Our Chuanjin Castellan position was obtained through fighting. The whole of Windcloud came out of nowhere. Moreover, don't you know that we always strive for excellence in recruiting people? The whole of Windcloud is different. He just became a Castellan and only has a dozen people under him. He definitely doesn't feel safe. I think you should take advantage of the fact that he isn't strong enough and F*CK him up. Stop messing around. Dugu Jiuqiang sneered. You must be scheming against the whole of Windcloud again. You want us to be cannon fodder? The whole of Windcloud didn't provoke me, so why should I provoke them? Once bitten, twice shy. Dugu Jiuqiang had fought with Chuanjin for so many years and suffered countless losses. He still had this bit of wisdom. What are you saying? Wuji said. I'm doing this for your own good. Do you think you can live and work in peace and contentment just by being honest? Do you believe that when the whole of Windcloud becomes strong, the first thing they'll deal with will be the apocalypse? This. Hearing Wuji's words, Dugu Jiuqiang furrowed his brows. Even though Wuji had a belly full of evil tricks, his words were sharp and accurate. Since ancient times, when a new emperor ascended to the throne, he would have to go to the house of his competitor and kill his entourage to move unhindered, and the apocalypse were the only two competitors in Heavenly Dragon City other than the whole of Windcloud's World Alliance. I just realized that these three guilds all had the word world in their names. These gaming geeks are really uncultured. Even their names are so vulgar. To move unhindered was needless to say. That group of fellows lived in harmony. They wouldn't offend others if they didn't offend them. If they were offended, they would annihilate the entire clan. To move unhindered, no matter how courageous the whole of Windcloud was, they wouldn't dare to provoke such a colossus. Other than that, the only guild that could make the whole of Windcloud afraid was the Apocalypse. The Apocalypse had tens of thousands of players and was definitely a force to be reckoned with. If the whole of Windcloud were to develop, they would definitely not let the Apocalypse wander around in front of them. When that time came, with the City Lord of Windcloud around, the Apocalypse wouldn't be a match for the World Alliance, no matter how powerful the Apocalypse was. After hesitating for a moment, Dugu Jiuqiang became more and more frightened. He quickly lowered his attitude and asked sincerely, "Then what should we do now? In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's get rid of the whole of Windcloud. Isn't it better to be the City Lord himself?" Wuji said resolutely. "What you said makes sense, but we have no reason to provoke a conflict for no reason. You have to know that he's the City Lord now," Dugu Jiuqiang said in a dilemma. Provoking the City Lord without reason was a huge crime. It was possible that he wouldn't be able to survive in Heavenly Dragon City during the Apocalypse. Wuji said, "Why not? Just this morning, the whole of Windcloud brought people to destroy your shop, killed your people, and ate without paying for your food. How can you tolerate that?" Actually, Dugu Jiuqiang had the intention to overthrow the whole of Windcloud since a long time ago, but he couldn't find a reason to do so. Now that Wuji pointed it out, He immediately reacted and slapped his thigh. I can't tolerate that. That's right, Wuji said with relief. Now that the whole of Windcloud is hunting outside the city and doesn't have any guards under him, it's a good opportunity for you to rebel. You must grasp it. Okay, tell me the coordinates. I'll go over now. Dugu Jiuqiang shouted. About that, I'll tell you later, Wuji said. Chapter 1094. Currently, Crystal Cold Jade and the others were still on their way and had yet to reach their destination. Wuji and the others were blindfolded and could not see their surroundings at all. Therefore, they had to wait for Crystal Cold Jade and the others to reach their destination. To place one's pride, who was following behind them, would then know where the whole of Windcloud's base camp was. To be on the safe side, the whole of Windcloud had chosen a rather remote location. After walking for about 10 minutes, they finally saw an inconspicuous guild encampment. Both sides of the encampment were filled with shrubs and weeds. The main color of the encampment was lush green, filled with an aura of forgiveness. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see that there was a building here. At the entrance of the encampment stood 4 to 5 players. It was not difficult to recognize that they were the group of mercenaries hired by the whole of Windcloud from the Freedom Cities. Although these mercenaries were not first-rate experts, they were not weak either. Now that they were here to guard the entrance for the whole of Windcloud, it was obvious that the whole of Windcloud had too much money. Only the 12 constellations and the whole of Windcloud had seen Crystal Cold Jade and the others before. The others did not even know who they were. Seeing Crystal Cold Jade and the others walking towards the guild encampment from afar, the mercenaries at the entrance immediately became alert. Crystal Cold Jade's group of 7 was very unconventional. Now that they were each carrying a player, it was indeed very strange. It was reasonable for the mercenaries to be wary. Moreover, if they were on the same side, they could have just stepped on the teleportation circle. Those who entered through the entrance were definitely outsiders. Seeing that the group was getting closer, the mercenaries took out their weapons and formed a formation to block the entrance. One of the warriors pointed at Crystal Cold Jade and shouted, "What are you doing? This is a private encampment. Get lost." However, before the warrior could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt his vision go black. In the next moment, Crystal Cold Jade appeared in front of the warrior. The warrior was shocked and quickly tried to retreat. Who knew that Crystal Cold Jade already knew what he was thinking and stepped on the warrior's foot. She smiled and raised her hand. Pa, 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 pa. Before the soldier could react to what had happened, he received a few loud slaps on his face. Not only the mercenaries, even the grandmasters of combat behind Crystal Jade were dumbfounded. Large beads of sweat started to form on their faces. Damn it, women who had entered menopause early were so unreasonable. This mercenary classmate was really unlucky. Why did he have to provoke this crazy girl? F***CK. Do you want to die? The warrior was slapped a few times for no reason and was instantly enraged. With a shout, the mercenaries at the door raised their weapons and were about to attack Ice Pure Jade. Since their boss was being attacked, Nian Luyun and the others naturally wouldn't just sit back and watch. They rushed forward and quickly pinned the 4 mercenaries to the ground. She stepped on the warrior and said with an unfriendly expression, "This windy world is too rude. I've spent so much effort to capture him, but this brat actually dared to stop me. Get him out here right now." Hearing Crystal Cold Jade's words, the warrior immediately felt disgusted. These were his own people, so he quickly sent a message to Windy World. Very soon, the whole of Windcloud walked out of the encampment with his men. Seeing the Chuanjin members on the backs of Clear Ice and the others, the whole of Windcloud was startled. He quickly walked over and bowed apologetically. "Sister Ice, I'm sorry. I forgot to instruct them." "Oomph." Crystal Cold Jade coldly snorted and ignored Windy World. She swaggered into the guild encampment. The mercenaries at the door were all dumbfounded, especially the warrior who was slapped by Crystal Cold Jade. He was extremely depressed. Seeing Windy World acting like a lackey, the slap must have been for nothing. However, The commotion caused by Crystal Cold Jade's group at the door gave Wuji the signal that they had reached their destination. Wuji asked to place one's pride in the channel. Chick, where are we now? At. Receiving Wuji's message, to place one's pride was stunned. I don't know. F***CK. Hearing to place one's pride's words, he immediately became angry. What do I need you for? Blessings never come in pairs, and misfortunes never come alone. At such a crucial moment, none of them could be relied on. To place one's pride was told to follow behind and remember the route, but this brat was nowhere to be found. Wuji's heart was about to break. To place one's pride felt wronged. I still remember the route at the beginning, but once we entered the Lost Forest, I got lost. Only then did Wuji remember that to place one's pride was the same as Wang Yu. They did not know the way, especially when they entered the forest. Furthermore, there were no coordinates on the map, so they immediately lost their sense of direction. To place one's pride was lucky that they did not get lost in an unfamiliar environment like Sky Dragon City. F***CK, Chick, you are useless. What should we do now? Mingdu asked anxiously. I don't know either. Wuji sent a shrug emoji, indicating that he was also very desperate. Oomph. At this moment, Chun Xiang sneered. You bunch of useless people. Don't you still need to rely on me at the crucial moment? Why? Brother Chun, you know? Everyone was surprised when they heard this. Of course, Chun Xiang said lightly, I have been remembering the steps of this group of people since just now. Remembering steps? What's the use of that? To place one's pride asked in confusion. Chun Xiang was silent for a moment, then sent out a bunch of calculation formulas on the public chat. What the F***CK are these? The two morons, Mingdu and to place one's pride, were both confused. Chun Xiang explained, from the scene of our battle with these people, we can see that these people's movement speed is roughly X meters per second. We left the port, moved left for 11 minutes and 24 seconds, then turned right for 9 minutes and 36 seconds. From this, we can continue to calculate. Speak human language. Get to the point. Hearing this, everyone basically understood what Chun Xiang meant, so they hurriedly stopped this guy's long-winded speech. Chun Xiang was stunned for a moment before he said, Our current position is 3,264 meters to the left after leaving the port, 2748. 63 meters to the right, rounded up to 2,749 meters, understand? What the F***CK? Seeing Chun Xiang's result, everyone from Chuanjin was stunned. They asked doubtfully, is that true? What the F***CK? He could accurately calculate his position after being blindfolded for so long. Why did it sound so F***king terrifying? Even though everyone from Chuanjin knew Chun Xiang's ability, it was inevitable for them to have some doubts. In the face of everyone's doubts, Chun Xiang did not explain, but said lightly, Do you guys want to believe me or Chick? Everyone was speechless for a moment. Without saying anything, Wuji copied Chun Xiang's result and sent it to Dugu Juqiang. What a joke. A man without hair could not do a good job. He was talking about women and children. How could Wuji still dare to believe to place one's pride? Chapter 1095. National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival. We need to organize activities and performances. Everyone knows that. Life is always busy. I take time to update with my phone. Chapter 1096. Hang in there. Receiving Dugu Juqiang's message, Wuji and the rest were in despair. Damn it, it would take at least 20 minutes for the end of the world to arrive from Sky Dragon City to save them. After death, players would only have 30 seconds to release their souls. In other words, this period of time was enough for World of Windcloud and the rest to kill Chuanjin 40 times. Based on 10% EXP per kill, 40 times would be equivalent to 4 levels. It would take at least half a month of hard work to level up from 46 to 50. Losing all the EXP in 20 minutes was a little hard to accept. Be content, Mingdu said optimistically. It's better than grinding to level 10. Oomph. Wuji asked back, "Do you think it's as simple as losing EXP? This." Everyone was stunned when they thought about it. They could level up again, but how much luck would they need to die 40 times without losing any equipment? Everyone was burdened with PK points in Sky Dragon City. If they died 40 times, they would probably drop their underwear. More importantly, they would probably have to reset the awakening mission that they had painstakingly completed. Damn it. If that's the case, there's no difference between losing 4 levels and dying. Everyone sighed. Let me hold them back. To place one's pride suddenly said. To place one's pride felt guilty for not being of any use just now, so he volunteered. You? How are you going to hold them back? Everyone questioned when they saw to place one's pride's message. I don't know, but I'll try my best. To place one's pride rubbed his nose and closed the chat window. To place one's pride knew that although the people from Chuanjin liked to undermine each other, they were still very loyal. To place one's pride to die in such a dangerous situation, no one would agree. However, a game like this was destined to not go far if one played alone. The rest of the Chuanjin team was no longer around. To place one's pride, what was the point of playing by himself? It might seem silly to act on impulse in the game, but sometimes only the people involved would know why they did what they did. To place one's pride, he stood up and headed to World of Wind Cloud's encampment. The mercenaries at the door had just been slapped by Bingqing Yujie, and when they saw to place one's pride walking towards them, they couldn't help but be surprised. They quickly spread out their formation and asked, "Who are you?" F***CK. To place one's pride originally wanted to barge in, but when he heard the mercenaries' question, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then, an idea came to him, and he said, F***CK? You don't even know me? Who am I? To place one's pride was quite smart. He knew that the people underworld of Wind Cloud were newly hired and didn't know each other. If he said that, he would most likely be able to sneak in. As expected, after hearing to place one's pride's words, the 4 mercenaries at the entrance immediately whispered to each other. Who? The mercenaries looked at each other and asked each other, Who? Do you know him? I don't know him, but judging from his attire, he seems to be a Grandmaster of Combat. Grandmaster of Combat? Could he be in cahoots with those guys who just passed by? The leader of the warriors heard this, and his expression immediately changed. With the previous example, the mercenaries naturally wouldn't be impolite to people they didn't know, especially the Grandmaster of Combat. If they were in cahoots with that girl, wouldn't they be slapped again? Therefore, the mercenaries quickly said in a pleasant tone, "So it's you. You're back so soon, I almost didn't recognize you. Please come in, come in." Ugh. To place one's pride was speechless for a moment. Then he carefully walked into the guild encampment. This guild encampment of World of Wind Cloud looked ordinary, but it was very spacious inside. The entire encampment was scattered with mercenaries. It was obvious that these mercenaries didn't know each other. None of them recognized to place one's pride. There were even some who took the initiative to greet to place one's pride. To place one's pride almost thought that he was a lackey of World of Wind Cloud. After asking around, to place one's pride finally found Xuanjin's group, who were tied up at the resurrection point at the entrance of the meeting hall. At this moment, countless mercenaries surrounded the group at the resurrection point. Each of them raised their weapons and were about to attack Wuji's group. Seeing this scene, to place one's pride instantly turned pale. He couldn't care less and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Stop!" Everyone was stunned when they heard Jiao's sudden shout. They quickly turned around and saw a Grandmaster of Combat standing not too far away with a sword in his hand. Tai Chi badge, Chuanjin's Grandmaster of Combat class. Could it be? The mercenaries under World of Wind Cloud, including the 12 stars, were traumatized by Wang Yu. Wang Yu's ferocious image of killing a group of mercenaries with a wave of his hand, as well as the scene of him fighting 1,000 people alone, were still vivid in their minds. Seeing to place one's pride's attire, everyone's heart skipped a beat and revealed a panicked expression. To place one's pride saw the expressions of the players opposite him and knew that they had mistaken him for Wang Yu. Therefore, he took out a long sword and gestured while shouting in a hoarse voice, "Those who attack will die." F***CK. Hearing the familiar words, everyone instantly panicked and took a step back. A bunch of trash. Get out of the way. Right at this moment, a clear and melodious voice rang out. Ice-clear Jade was dragging her 3-meter-long spear, leaping over everyone's heads, flying into the sky above Pride. Following which, Pure Ice swung her spear and swung it at to place one's Pride's face, sending to place one's Pride flying. To place one's Pride was a level 50 awakened player. Moreover, he was also wearing a full set of exquisite equipment. Naturally, he would not be killed so easily. This pitiful guy screamed in pain as he tumbled a few times and was sent flying to the side by Pure Ice. At the same time, Nian Luyun and the others followed closely behind and surrounded to place one's Pride. It's over. I'm going all out. Seeing so many experts surrounding him, to place one's Pride was shocked. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. He lifted his leg and kicked forward. Shadow chain kick. It's him. It's not him. Nian Luyun and the others had seen to place one's Pride's shadow chain kick before. When they saw to place one's Pride's kick flying out, they immediately reacted and dodged. At this moment, to place one's Pride's figure turned and split into 3, kicking from 3 different directions. Triple Thunderbolt kick. Lucid Cloud, 13, and Glacial Jade were clearly faster to react than the others, and they were able to dodge Pride's flying kick. Dao Break, Dao Ming, and the others, however, were not as lucky. Pride's kick landed squarely on their bodies. Triple Thunderbolt kick was an awakened level skill. Its attack power did not need to be explained. To place one's Pride's kick landed squarely on them. The 4 did not even have time to scream before they were kicked into the revival point. Seeing to place one's Pride instantly kill 4 experts, everyone panicked again. Chapter 1097. To place one's Pride may be an expert, but compared to these kung fu kids, to place one's Pride's advantages were all in level and stats. Facing so many people head-on was undoubtedly a suicidal action. To place one's Pride's final killing moves, especially the flickering shadow chain kick and the thunderbolt triple kick. Using them now was no different from playing landlord with 4 twos and 2 kings. In a situation like this, even if he fought head-on, he still had to think carefully. This kind of mindless charge was clearly lacking in consideration. A kid was a kid. Sigh, this brat, he didn't listen to us. Now we're all going to die. Everyone sighed and couldn't help but shake their heads. To place one's Pride's actions were a bit brainless, but under these circumstances, this kid was still able to come back and fight. Hee, are you guys ignoring me? However, just when everyone thought that to place one's Pride was going to die as well, a message suddenly popped up in the guild channel. Everyone took a look and saw that it was actually from North Sea Yo-Yu. North Sea Yo-Yu was an assassin with the 2nd stage of invisibility and earth escape. Disregarding her killing skills, her survival skills were unparalleled. It could be said that as long as she was on the ground, basically no one could catch her. Therefore, in the first exchange with Crystal Clear Jade and the others, North Sea Yo-Yu knew that she was no match for them and escaped through the ground. Moreover, this guy was naturally invisible. If he hadn't voluntarily appeared, no one would have realized that this kid was still alive. Huh, old you? Where are you? Seeing North Sea Yo-Yu's message, everyone was shocked and hurriedly asked. North Sea Yo-Yu calmly replied, Brother Chun, don't move. I'm right under your butt. F***CK. Chun Xiang shivered. This old man's fart has been scared away. What are you doing under my butt? North Sea Yo-Yu's face darkened. If you dare to fart, I'll stab your sphincter. Hurry up and put your hands behind you. Chun Xiang was speechless. He leaned back and placed his hands on the ground. Bada. At that moment, a dagger stuck out from the ground and chopped the rope binding Chun Xiang. There was a light noise. Chun Xiang felt his hands and feet loosened. The rope was untied. To place one's Pride's mechanics may not be as good as Glacial Jade's group, but his level was still there. A Grandmaster of Combat was an agile class. Furthermore, Glacial Jade's group was quite wary of to place one's pride's flash shadow chain kick and triple thunderbolt kick. Therefore, they did not dare to push him too far, allowing him to jump up and down. They could not do anything to him for the time being. To place one's pride, the whole of Windcloud and his men's attention was drawn to them. They did not notice the strange behavior of Qiuanjin and the others at the resurrection point. It didn't take long for Baiming Yoyu to cut the ropes binding the Qiuanjin troops. After gaining freedom, Wuji hurriedly shouted in the channel, "Mingdu, go save Chick, wait." Mingdu said pitifully, "Why?" Wuji's expression froze as he asked. "My legs are numb." Everyone was speechless, as they were afraid that Mingdu would use hand gestures to cast spells. Poor Mingdu was tied up in a professional way. It was reasonable that his legs were numb. However, the sensory simulation in the game was not strong. After a few seconds, Mingdu recovered and casually snapped his fingers. "All right, let's start." "Yes." Wuji nodded and waved his staff to give orders to everyone. "Brother Chun, cover everyone first. Old Yu, Dao Xue, clear the range classes. Mingdu, go save Chick. Dark Barrier rise." Following Wuji's order, Chun Xiang smashed his staff on the ground, and a circle of dark barrier surrounded the resurrection point. Chun Xiang raised the book of sealing with his left hand, and rays of light flew out from the book. 6 demons protected Qiuanjin troops in the middle. At the same time, Mingdu raised his staff, and instantly, lightning fell from the sky and the ground was set on fire. In an instant, the whole of Windcloud's troops were drowned. The encirclement that the whole of Windcloud thought was impregnable did not even last for a second before an opening was blasted open. Not good. Why are they standing up again? Icy Jade was shocked when she saw Qiuanjin's troops suddenly attacking. She pointed at to place one's pride and said, "Quickly take care of this brat. I'll go and help." However, before Icy Jade could finish her sentence, the body of to place one's pride that was jumping up and down suddenly emitted a ball of light. Following that, his body shook and turned into a wretched-looking Mingdu. Mingdu smiled slyly and waved at Icy Jade. "Hello, beautiful." Yeah. Icy Jade was dumbfounded when she saw Mingdu's ugly face. She went crazy and said, "What's going on? How'd he turn into this bastard? Kill him for me." After receiving Icy Jade's order, Nian Luyun and the rest surrounded him without hesitation. "Bye-bye. Let's meet again next time." Mingdu cackled and disappeared into thin air, leaving only a blue lightning ball in the air. At this time, Nian Luyun and the rest also arrived near the lightning ball. F*CK. Seeing the lightning ball in front of them, everyone's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. It was too late to dodge. Boom! With a loud explosion, a circle of people was blasted away. Since it was a low-level skill, Nian Luyun and the rest were only left with low health. After drinking a potion, they recovered. At this time, Mingdu and to place one's pride had already returned to Qiuanjin's formation. The people of the whole of Windcloud did not expect Qiuanjin to still be able to bite back at them. Qiuanjin's sudden attack caught them off guard. The mercenaries under the whole of Windcloud were unfamiliar with each other, and their teamwork was rather rusty. Once the formation was disrupted, they only cared about fighting their own battles and quickly became a mess. Mingjian Daoxue and Baiming Yoyu were like phantoms, harvesting the fragile range classes. Seeing this, the mercenaries all moved closer to Qiuanjin's position. Whoosh! A circle of green light spread out from Soaring Spring's body. Wherever the toxic nova went, everyone turned green. Mingdu clasped his hands together and made a strange gesture. In an instant, the sky changed color and a dark cloud covered the sky above the revival point. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Thick bolts of lightning struck down, turning the mercenaries into ashes. This was the fundamental difference between an awakened and a non-awakened player. All of Qiuanjin's members were awakened ones. Their attributes and skills far surpassed that of a normal person. Under the effects of Soaring Spring's poison, the surrounding mercenaries were all powerless. Their health dropped and their feet slowed down. Before they could even reach Qiuanjin, they died on the spot. Chapter 1098. Just like that, they died again and again. The mercenaries who died first were already powerless to resist, while the Quan Jin sect became more and more courageous as they fought. The Quan Jin sect, which was originally on the brink of death in the eyes of Feng Yintian, actually showed signs of a counterattack under Wuji's command. Of course, counterattacking was just a facade. Xuanjin's members were well aware of how dangerous their current situation was. When the number of mercenaries increased, there would be a qualitative change. The reason why Xuanjin seemed to have the upper hand was because they caught their opponents off guard, as well as their lack of discipline and coordination. With less than 10 people, they wanted to withstand the attacks of so many people, including a group of super experts like Pure Ice and Jade Heroine. The chances of this happening were very slim. Even if they were awakened experts, casting spells would still consume their energy. Moreover, Wind Cloud World's mercenaries were not brainless NPCs. How could they remain the same? These mercenaries were trained in PvP, so their adaptability were quite strong. Once they worked together and formed a formation, Xuanjin's current advantage would disappear. Therefore, everyone had to try their best to gain the upper hand during this period of time and persevere until Dugu Jiuqiang's reinforcements arrived. Damn it! Wind Cloud World's heart sank when he saw that more and more of his subordinates were dying, but they still couldn't stand up. He hurriedly shouted, "Stop charging around, come back, come back!" Originally, these mercenaries had been scattered by the Xuanjin sect. Now that they heard their bosses order to retreat, they hurriedly retreated as if they had been pardoned from joining the group. In a short while, these mercenaries had distanced themselves from Xuanjin and escaped from Xuanjin's long-range attack range. It couldn't be helped. Xuanjin's current formation was definitely a nightmare for melee players. Not to mention the warriors and knights. Even the mages couldn't help. This was because they knew that once they stepped into Xuanjin's attack range, even if they didn't die, they would be skinned alive. This kind of formation was like a hedgehog. Even Pure Ice and her group of ruthless people had to stay away from it and watch from afar. It made sense. Grandmasters of combat were famous for their short arms. With the people of Xuanjin hiding in the dark enchantment of Spring Soar, the melee classes couldn't even touch Mo Do. No matter how strong Pure Ice and the others were, they wouldn't be so strong that they could overturn the system's class settings. Naturally, they wouldn't dare to go over and mess with them. Of course, there was no such thing as a perfect strategy in this world. Wind Cloud Heavens also had capable subordinates under him. Rat immediately saw through Xuanjin's current predicament. After everyone got into formation, Rat, who was beside Wind Cloud Heavens, shouted, "Archers, prepare to fire." The archers among the mercenaries received the order. They knocked their arrows and aimed at the people of Xuanjin at the resurrection point. Seeing that Windy World had already organized his subordinates to retreat and order the archers to get into formation, Wuji furrowed his brows and ordered, "There's an expert on the other side. Everyone defend." That's right. Just as Rat had predicted, Xuanjin was now a live target. Rat could tell at a glance that the resurrection point was the only advantage the Quan Jin sect had at the moment. Once the resurrection point was breached by the people of the world of Wind Cloud, or the people of the Quan Jin sect left the resurrection point, they would definitely return to a passive state. After all, the resurrection point was equivalent to a supply station. As long as the formation wasn't broken and there were companions to take care of each other, they could immediately join the battle after resurrection. They wouldn't be like the mercenaries of Wind Cloud Heavens who were killed the moment they appeared. Therefore, as long as the resurrection point was still there, the people of Xuanjin didn't have to worry about being defeated one by one. Even if they died a few times, they would at most lose some experience. Of course, the people of Xuanjin understood this logic. After receiving Wuji's order, everyone quickly gathered into formation and hid behind the demons of Spring Soar. At that time, the mercenary archers also started shooting at Xuanjin. Countless arrows rained down on the people of Xuanjin like rain. After Spring Soar awakened, the attributes of the demons under him also increased by several times. With Wuji and Spring Soar taking turns to buff the demons, The 6 demons withstood the bombardment of the people of Wind Cloud Heavens for a few rounds before falling to the ground. Without the protection of the demons, the people of Chuanjin were immediately exposed to the mercenaries' vision. Damn it, I'm going to die. Spring Soar gritted his teeth and shook the Book of Seals in his left hand. A ball of light flew out from the pages of the book and turned into a giant python that blocked the people of Chuanjin. Rat saw this scene clearly from behind and immediately ordered, "Concentrate your firepower and attack that warlock in the green hat." The mercenaries obeyed and turned their bows and arrows to aim at Spring Soar. Countless arrows flew over. If Spring Soar was attacked by himself, he would have immediately turned into mist and escaped. However, Spring Soar was the most important part of Chuanjin's formation, so he naturally couldn't dodge. Clang! Seeing that Spring Soar was about to be shot to death, Yinlao Air quickly rushed in front of Spring Soar and used the giant sky god's shield to protect Spring Soar. Clang, 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 clang. After a series of sounds that sounded like heavy rain, the arrows of the mercenaries were all blocked by Yinlao Air. At that moment, Wuji also summoned the illusionary snake. The illusionary snake circled around everyone and covered the people of Chuanjin with a pink mist. The archers once again lost their target. Seeing how fierce Chuanjin was, Wind Cloud Heavens couldn't help but curse. Damn it, what a bunch of troublesome fellows. Forget it, release the arrows, don't stop. Let's see how long they can last. Sometimes the stupidest method was the most effective method. This move by Wind Cloud Heavens had directly poked at Chuanjin's weak spot. Aimlessly shooting arrows was equivalent to playing a war of attrition. A war of attrition was naturally more effective with more people. With so many players from Wind Cloud Heavens, it was only a matter of time before they killed Chuanjin. Although Chuanjin's target was covered by the pink mist, the resurrection point was just a small place. The mercenaries didn't even need to aim and only needed to shoot into the mist. No matter how inaccurate they were, there would always be 1 or 2 arrows that hit the target out of 10. Under the attrition of Wind Cloud Heavens and his men, the potions in Chuanjin's bag were getting lesser and lesser. It was getting harder and harder for them to resist. Damn it, is Dugu Tsongshin afraid to come? They were about to run out of food and ammunition, but the reinforcements had yet to arrive. Everyone was getting more and more anxious. Wuji said gloomily, "Who knows? I'm not surprised that Dogquin stood us up." Wuji, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you're really unreliable today. How many times has it been? Even at this time, everyone still didn't forget to mock each other. Huh, who said it wasn't? Wuji laughed bitterly and couldn't help but shake his head. First, he was tricked. Then he met with unreliable teammates 3 times in a row. Looking at the first half of Wuji's life, he had never encountered such a miserable situation. However, at this time, Wuji's notification bar flashed and a message popped up. Seeing the message, Wuji's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. He said to everyone, "It's past midnight. We've reached the bottom." Chapter 1099. What's going on? Seeing Wuji's expression, everyone turned to look at him. They thought to themselves, this kid's life has been smooth sailing all his life. Did he go mad after receiving so many blows today? Mph. Wuji laughed. Look at the guild channel. While everyone was dodging the arrows in the sky, they opened the guild channel and saw a message flashing on the public screen. "All of you trash. Are you all dead yet? I'll be at Wuji soon." They looked at the sender, Iron Ox. F***CK. Old Cow is here. After seeing this message, everyone hurriedly took a look at the member list at the side. As expected, Wang Yu's status was currently online. Damn, he's finally here. Seeing Wang Yu online, everyone was so excited that tears flowed down their cheeks. As the leader of Chuanjin, Wang Yu had saved his teammates from danger many times. Over time, he had become the backbone of the team. What was a backbone? A backbone was Wang Yu. No matter how difficult the situation was, everyone would have a feeling of, this is the end. I'm going to have a smoke. Originally, everyone's survival was uncertain, and they had pinned their hopes on Dugu Jiuqiang's group. Their morale was at an all-time low. Now that Wang Yu was online, everyone was energized and shouted in the guild channel, "Hurry up, we can't hold on any longer. Why are you so late?" Wang Yu replied, "Don't be noisy. I used a scroll to fly over. Now I'm outside with the people from the apocalypse. I've already taken off my clothes and gotten into bed. My wife just remembered something. You guys are really worrisome." While Wang Yu was grumbling, the whole of Windcloud and the others suddenly received a message. The apocalypse has launched an attack on the guild base of Heaven Alliance. After receiving the message, the whole of Windcloud was shocked and asked Rat, "Damn, why are the people from the apocalypse here? What do we do now?" Mouse thought for a moment, then ordered everyone, "Mages, follow us to guard the door. Everyone else, continue to attack. Xuanzhen's men won't be able to hold on for much longer." After saying that, the group of people from the 12 constellations took the lead and rushed to the entrance of the encampment. "Do as he says." The whole of Windcloud added, and the mage mercenaries followed closely behind. By the time 12 astrological signs and the others arrived at the entrance, the players of the apocalypse had already begun their assault on the guild encampment. Seeing this, Rat quickly gathered his mercenaries and began to defend and counterattack. At this moment, Dugu Jiuqiang had been dragged onto Wuji's pirate ship. Originally, Dugu Jiuqiang had thought that there were only a dozen or so people in the whole of Windcloud. However, after exchanging blows, he immediately understood what it meant to be a tough bone to chew. The terrain of the World Alliance's guild encampment was very special. It was located deep within the forest. Not only was it well hidden, but it was also a terrain that was easy to defend and hard to attack. In addition, Heavenly Windcloud was not lacking in money. Compared to Xuanzhen's entrance, which did not even have a guard dog, the World Alliance's encampment could be said to be armed to the teeth. There were guards of various classes and defensive equipment, fully displaying Heavenly Windcloud's nature as a tycoon. It was true that Heavenly Dragon City had a large number of players, but a large number of players was not enough to attack a fortified encampment. Although there were only mages guarding the entrance, they were still able to block the players of the apocalypse outside. Unfortunately, they did not have the strength to deal with such a fortified encampment without any siege equipment. Xuanzhen's group was still being beaten up like dogs. Naturally, Wang Yu would not wait for the players of the apocalypse to attack the encampment. Wang Yu leaped into the air and spread his wings, flying directly into the sky. "Release the arrows. Release the arrows. I'll give 100 gold coins to whoever kills one of them." While the battle was going on outside, Heavenly Windcloud was happily commanding the mercenaries to shoot arrows within the encampment. At that time, there was a loud noise, and a figure covered in lightning landed in the midst of the mercenaries. Boom! The lightning spread out, and a large number of mercenaries died. Yeah! The sudden loud noise gave Heavenly Windcloud a fright. He quickly turned his head to look, and at the same time, he heard the people of Xuanzhen shouting in unison, "Old cow! We're over here. It's you?" When he saw the person's identity, Heavenly Windcloud was shocked and angry, and retreated a few steps in fear. To place one's pride with the identity of a grandmaster of combat, imitated Wang Yu's words, and was able to frighten the mercenaries into retreating. From this, it could be seen that Wang Yu's face was like a nightmare to the mercenaries present. At this moment, the real Wang Yu appeared, and with a stomp, he killed a group of them. The mercenaries were instantly frightened, and their morale plummeted. They all retreated, afraid that they would be killed in one move if they were not careful. Hearing Xuanzhen's voice, Wang Yu followed the sound and jumped in front of Xuanzhen. Seeing that Xuanzhen and the others were safe and sound, Wang Yu nodded his head in relief. He then looked around, and his gaze landed on Heavenly Windcloud. He said calmly, "Let them go, and we'll treat this as if it never happened. Otherwise, you'll regret it." Heavenly Windcloud was not a coward. Facing a bug-level expert like Wang Yu, the fear in his heart was not any less than the others. Now that Wang Yu was staring at Heavenly Windcloud, under Wang Yu's gaze, Heavenly Wind Cloud felt immense pressure and instinctively wanted to admit defeat. However, before Heavenly Wind Cloud could say anything, a similarly tall and burly Grandmaster of Combat jumped in front of Wang Yu, blocking Heavenly Wind Cloud's path. Quan Jun and the others looked up. This person was 13, the subordinate of Pure Ice and Jade. He, 13, smiled, squinted his eyes, and asked Wang Yu, "You must be little Wang. Who's this grandson?" Seeing that someone dared to speak to him in such a manner, Wang Yu frowned and asked. It seemed that Wang Yu was not in a good mood when he was dragged out of bed. He rarely used vulgarities, but now, he frequently used vulgarities. Quan Jun and the others hurriedly reminded him, "Hey, old cow, you have to be civilized." Wang Yu scratched his head and politely asked again, "May I know who this grandson is?" 13 could not be bothered to argue with Wang Yu, so he raised his chin and said, "I'm G13. I've heard of you long ago, so I'm here to meet you. Are you going to give me face or not?" "Oh," Wang Yu understood and said, "You must be little G. I've heard of you too. Are you for real? You know this guy?" Quan Jun and the others asked suspiciously. "Of course," Wang Yu said. When this kid was 12, he used his martial arts to flirt with innocent women and was caught red-handed by Elder Tong. He was stripped naked and hung on the city gate for a day and night. It was the firemen who took him down. How could I not have heard of such a famous person? F***CK. So terrifying. What happened to him in the end? Everyone was rather interested in G13's bizarre experience. Chapter 1100. Ji Shursan did not fly into a rage when he heard Wang Yu expose his misdeeds when he was young. Instead, he laughed and said, "I didn't expect a legendary genius like you to know about a nobody like me. I'm really honored." "That's right. I admit what you said. It's natural for men to be lecherous. There's nothing to be ashamed of." "Oh." Everyone from Chuanja nodded. Although this grandson is a scoundrel, what he said is not without reason. Ji Shursan then said, "But I want to see if you're worthy of your reputation as a genius." With that, Ji Shursan took a step forward and came in front of Wang Yu. He extended his left leg and threw a punch with his right fist. Inviting you into a trap? You used it well." Seeing Ji Shursan's move, Wang Yu smiled and did not dodge. He stepped forward with his right foot and blocked Ji Shursan's left leg. Both his hands reached up and down. His left hand grabbed Ji Shursan's wrist, and his right hand grabbed Ji Shursan's belt. He lifted Ji Shursan up. Ji Shursan, who was lifted up, clasped his other hand together and reached out to stab Wang Yu's eyes. Wang Yu suddenly swung both of his hands, and before Ji Shursan's fingers could reach Wang Yu's face, he was thrown away. Ji Shursan did 2 backflips in midair to reduce the force before he stabilized himself and did not squat on the ground. After landing, Ji Shursan's face alternated between red and white, as if he had been greatly humiliated. Oh, he's still angry. Seeing Ji Shursan's indignant face, everyone from Chuanjan could not help but start pointing at him. Opponents being thrown out by Wang Yu was a very common thing in Chuanjan's eyes. Therefore, this group of laymen only felt that Wang Yu had done something insignificant. Ji Shursan was already very lucky to survive after being thrown out by Wang Yu. They did not expect this kid to still be unsatisfied. He had probably died before. Of course, as the saying goes, the layman enjoys the show, while the expert appreciates the artistry. Compared to the composure of the Chuanjan people, Nian Luyun and the others behind Ji Shursan could not help but gasp when they saw this scene. Everyone here was an expert, so they naturally had a different view from these ordinary people. No matter how notorious Ji Shursan was, he was still an expert who had made a name for himself at a young age. To this day, the profoundness of his fist technique was above that of the Li siblings, who had the highest cultivation in fist technique among them. This punch seemed ordinary, but the angle was quite tricky. It inadvertently sealed the space on Wang Yu's left to dodge, and at the same time, the front left leg had already tripped Wang Yu on the other side. Just as the name suggested, the main point was to force the opponent to fall into the trap. The next kick was the foundation. Who would have thought that Wang Yu wouldn't fall for it all? With a casual wave of his hand, he dissolved the urn along with the person. It was simple and crude, without the slightest technique to speak of. Everyone was a martial artist, so they naturally knew that when one's fist technique was cultivated to an extremely high realm, it would return to simplicity and return to simplicity. This was the principle of lifting something heavy as if it were light, and great skill did not require hard work. Ji-Shur-San's killing move was dissolved by the simplest and crudest move, which showed the gap in their cultivation. It was like watching someone easily solve an extremely difficult mathematical problem using only addition and subtraction. Seeing Wang Yu's method, everyone couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. Originally, not only pure ice and jade, everyone, including Ji-Shur-San, thought that no matter how strong Wang Yu was, he was only a young man who was about the same age as them. Even if his cultivation was stronger than theirs, it wouldn't be by much. But now, looking at Wang Yu again, everyone felt that they were looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. What was a gap? A gap was a gap that made you lose the will to resist when you see your opponent. Meow. No wonder this brat was called an unparalleled genius that only appeared once in 100 years. To be able to obtain the recognition of so many people, it was definitely not boasting. At this moment, the person with the ugliest expression was pure ice and jade. The reason why this girl was so respectful towards Ji-Shur-San was because she had lost to him 3 times in a row. She was deeply aware that Ji-Shur-San's strength was unparalleled, and he was a well-known figure among the younger generation. But such an expert was actually thrown back without even being able to exchange a single move. This pure ice and jade's mood suddenly became incomparably chaotic. Pure ice and jade was an extremely arrogant horse. She had only lowered her head to the strong her entire life. At this moment, seeing that the enemy who had once humiliated her had actually become so strong, not only did she feel indignant, she suddenly felt that Wang Yu wasn't that annoying anymore. Even thinking about how this guy had almost married her, this girl's face even turned a little red. Damn, is this the legendary masochist? A woman's heart was really unfathomable. Impossible. Ji-Shur-San, who had been beaten by Wang Yu to the point of doubting his life, had also slowly regained his senses. Now, the gaze he used to look at Wang Yu was filled with disbelief. He couldn't help but point at Wang Yu and said, "How could this be? I've been painstakingly cultivating my skills for so many years without stopping. How could there be such a big gap? This isn't fair." Indeed, everyone's age was similar, and they were all working hard. If the gap was just a little bit, it was reasonable. After all, the opponent was a publicly recognized genius. But now, it was obvious that the gap between everyone was calculated by realm. This made Ji-Shur-San somewhat unable to accept it. Upon hearing this, Wang Yu sneered and said, "If hard work is useful, what's the point of having a genius? If the gap between us isn't that big, then it's really unfair to me." TSK, TSK. Is this still the old cow? Upon hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone from the Chuanjin sect sighed. They didn't expect that Wang Yu, who had always treated people modestly, would actually have such a vicious mouth when he spoke. This guy's temper, when he woke up, really wasn't ordinary. An expert like Ji-Shur-San was also very conceited. After hearing Wang Yu's vicious words, he immediately said angrily, "I don't believe it. You must have used some kind of trick in the game. Let's fight again." As he spoke, Ji-Shur-San once again rushed in front of Wang Yu. His palms formed claws, and he swung them continuously, aiming at Wang Yu's upper, middle, and lower body. Wang Yu did not panic. His hands moved up and down to block, not showing the slightest bit of difficulty. At that time, Wang Yu seized a gap in Ji-Shur-San's defense and lightly tapped the tip of his foot, kicking Ji-Shur-San's lower abdomen. Ji-Shur-San cried out and fell to the ground. It was a martial artist's duty to stop when necessary. When Wang Yu saw Ji-Shur-San fall to the ground, he naturally stopped. However, Ji-Shur-San was naturally furious after being knocked down twice in a row. When he saw that Wang Yu had stopped, he slammed his hands on the ground and flipped over. His feet suddenly kicked up toward Wang Yu's face from below. Wang Yu frowned and kicked Ji Shisan's chest. Once again, Ji Shisan was kicked to the ground. After Ji Shisan was kicked down, Wang Yu followed closely behind and pressed his knee against Ji Shisan's back. "All right, you can go and die now." Facing this kind of despicable guy, Wang Yu could not be bothered to talk nonsense either. He swung his fist and smashed toward Ji Shisan's head. Chapter 1101. At the same time, the owner of the spear, Pure Ice, pointed at Wang Yu and shouted, "Everyone, attack together!" Wang Yu's reaction was extremely fast. The moment Pure Ice's spear stabbed towards him, he had already sensed it. Before Pure Ice's spear could reach him, he tilted his head slightly to the side and avoided the tip of Pure Ice's spear. Pure Ice didn't wait for the attack to arrive. She grabbed the end of the spear with both hands and swung it from left to right. The spear whistled through the air as it swung towards Wang Yu's head. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu leaned to the side and avoided Pure Ice's horizontal sweep. At the same time, he pressed his arms against the ground and his body flew into the air. His legs kicked backwards at extremely fast speed. The spear was originally a piercing weapon. If it was a horizontal sweep, it would take a long time to recover. Before Pure Ice could retract her attack, Wang Yu's legs had already landed on Pure Ice's chest. In a panic, Pure Ice hurriedly threw away her spear and used both hands to deflect the force. However, Wang Yu's kick was very powerful. How could a woman like her easily block it? Bang! With a muffled sound, Glacial Jade was sent flying by the kick. Seeing a beautiful girl like Pure Ice get kicked into such a miserable state, everyone clenched their fists and cursed, "Damn, you animal." Just as Wang Yu was about to rush over and give her a kick, Nian Luyun and the others had already rushed in front of Wang Yu. The five of them took up positions in front of Wang Yu. Seeing Nian Luyun and the others rushing forward, Chuanjin was unhappy. He immediately rushed forward and stood behind Wang Yu with his weapon. Mingdu condensed lightning on his staff and pointed it at Nian Luyun. "Damn, you want to fight me with numbers? I'll fight you anytime." Everyone had seen Radiant Doe's magic damage. Seeing the lightning crackling on Yaya's staff, Nian Luyun and the others retreated a few steps with dark expressions. It couldn't be helped. If Mingdu was alone, no one would be afraid. But now there was Wang Yu. If they fought, Mingdu just had to casually toss out a spell, and no one would be able to withstand it. In the game, there was only life and death. There was no such thing as heavy injuries. Even if a player was left with a sliver of health, as long as they didn't die, they would still be alive and kicking. At that time, Pure Ice and Ji Shisan had already returned to the party. She sneered at Wang Yu. With your status, do you still need help from a group of gaming geeks?" Wang Yu looked at Pure Ice and the others, then turned back to look at Wuji and the others. "You go help World Apocalypse. Leave this to me. It can't be old cow. You fell for such a low-level provocation?" Everyone was surprised. Hee. Wang Yu laughed. "It's all right. There's not much difference if they attack together or alone." Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone almost spat out a mouthful of blood. In the eyes of ordinary players, these kung fu experts were superhuman in the eyes of Chuanjin's experts. They didn't expect that they were no different from those small fries that could be killed instantly by Wang Yu. What was awesome? That was not bad. This answer was very Wang Yu's. Currently, the mercenaries surrounding the Chuanjin sect had already followed the whole world of Windcloud to the entrance. Since it was the end of the world, they were already feeling a little uneasy. Now that reinforcements had arrived, 9 solitary spear, and the rest would definitely be in a more difficult situation. Chuanjin and World Apocalypse were not on good terms, but since Dugu Jiuqiang was here to help, Chuanjin would naturally not stand by and do nothing. Both guilds were despicable and shameless, but they would never owe each other a favor. "Then take care of yourself." Thinking of this, Wuji waved to the others and ran toward the entrance of World Alliance's encampment. At this moment, only Wang Yu and Pure Ice's group were left at the resurrection point. Seeing that Chuanjin's group had left, Pure Ice and the others turned their attention back to Wang Yu. Hee. Wang Yu smiled and hooked his finger at the others. Come at me together. Arrogant. Ji Shursan clenched his fists and shouted. He threw a punch at Nye Yan's head. This was a proper cannon punch. With Ji Shursan's physique, it was better for him to walk the path of violence. Wang Yu took a step forward and blocked Ji Shursan's fist. He exerted force in his arms and punched Ji Shursan's chest. Ji Shursan groaned and passed away. At this moment, Dao Pe and the other three had already surrounded Wang Yu and were attacking him with their fists. Wang Yu used his movement technique, twisting and turning as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. At the same time, he stretched out his hands slowly. Although it looked light and powerless, he blocked all of their fists in an instant. In just one round, everyone instantly knew that Wang Yu was unfathomable. Their faces all revealed expressions of terror, so they hurriedly withdrew their fists. However, for some unknown reason, everyone discovered that no matter how hard they tried, it was as if they were stuck and they couldn't exert the slightest bit of strength. They couldn't even exert any strength, let alone withdraw their fists. Since they could not retract their fists, they could only attack. The four of them made up their minds and pushed forward with all their might. However, Wang Yu loosened his hands and twisted his body slightly. The direction of their fists instantly changed, and they hit each other. At the same time, Wang Yu hit the top of their heads with 4 palms, turning them into white light. Sure enough, as Wang Yu said, even if these people attacked together, the gap was not big. If the opponent was an ordinary expert player who was using game skills, Wang Yu, as a novice gamer, might have a headache because she didn't know much about foreign things. But what kind of people were Pure Ice, Pure Jade, and the others? They learned Kung Fu. Looking at the Kung Fu circle, who knew this craft better than Wang Yu? These Kung Fu kids bullied ordinary people, but in front of a master like Wang Yu was more proficient in the fist techniques they learned than them. It was not an exaggeration to say that as long as they raised their hands, Wang Yu knew what they were doing and where to hit. These people's skills in front of Wang Yu were not the slightest bit technical and unexpected. There was no other way. The gap between the realm of the same profession was too big. There would be such a crushing effect. Therefore, for Wang Yu, it was easier to deal with these people than to deal with ordinary players. After all, only Kung Fu could defeat Kung Fu. From the moment Ji Shursan took the initiative to reveal that the 4 of them were all killed, only a few seconds had passed. After easily killing 5 people, only Pure Ice Jade and Yin Luoyun were left alive. Pure Ice and Yin Luoyun could see that Wang Yu was a walking dictionary of Kung Fu. There were only things that were not in the books, and there was nothing that Wang Yu did not know. It was like there was an answer in an exam. It was simply shameless. Plus, with such a high gap in cultivation, wanting to use Kung Fu to defeat Wang Yu was no different from a fool's dream. It seemed that they could only use moves that Wang Yu was not familiar with to have any hope of winning. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.